as all 5 lights are on and they go out, but they have to wait to go out for the drivers as well. And now we are underway, and it looks like a decent getaway off the line initially for Jan Thaler there on those medium tyres, but not alongside Vexit. And Christian Sendel is looking to challenge around the outside. Jan's boxed in by the Red Bull there, and as a result, that is going to be Christian Sendel doing exactly what you said and moving up ahead of his teammate there on those soft tyres. Now, Jeffrey Ritchie's had a bit of a poor start. Maybe that did cost him on the formation lap after all. He's under pressure here from Peso, from Hamo as well, as it's Peso and Jeffrey Ritchie going side by side. Hamo and Zay as well. Hamo very wide, just about holding on to that AlphaTauri there, but he loses out to Marinkello as well, who's up 1 position from where he started. Vallu already up to 11th as well.
Yeah, Vallu just trying to stay out of trouble on those medium tyres, cannot afford to be involved in an incident. Peso holds it around the outside of Zay through Bica de Pato as they make their way through turn 9. Sorry, that was turn 8, and we see the Ferrari running wide. I think that was Peso running wide as well. That's going to be another position going to Vallu, who's now side by side with Zay through turn 11.
Peso's having a really tough time of it right now. Hamo trying to get past into Juncal. There's a car off in the background. There's Yanni Tripkov, who's gone round there on the exit of turn 11.
The order, but I'm going to hold that thought for a second as here comes Jeffrey Ritchie on Connor Eddy. Connor will not go defensive, and Jeffrey will be able to slingshot his way through down the inside into T1.
Yeah, nicely done by Jeffrey. He's had some pace after that poor opening lap with the tyres not quite in the right state after the disqualification from the formation lap, but it might not be over here as Connor Eddy's looking to slither back up the inside on the way down towards turn 4, and he will be able to brake later than the Alfa Romeo as well. Jeffrey Ritchie trying to hang it around the outside. There's not too much room on the exit there of turn 5. Seen some big crashes there in the past in real life. 2009, Jarno Trulli, Adrian Sutil. But right now, these guys are keeping it much cleaner here with Jeffrey Ritchie still sitting on the inside line. And that's going to be all important for turn 7. Shuts the door on the entry to Pinheirino and moves up comfortably into P5 at the end. But yeah, Peso's really struggling at this point because he's been passed by Vallu and now Zay. But here comes Hamo trying to get up the inside of Marinkello and does so without too much trouble. Marinkello not really fighting that one too hard. Jan Thaler getting past Christian Sendel further up the order. He's managed it into turn 4 there, and the medium-tyre McLaren is now ahead of the one on the soft. Will Peso's teammate be able to do anything? He's going to have to defend from Lars Algera, who's alongside him here into the braking zone. Lars taking the outside line. Sandro trying to defend with the inside. The Belgian trying to keep his nose in there, but Lars looks to have the better line. Should have the better run through turn 3. But they're still going to be side by side all the way up towards turn 4 here. Oh, a little bit of a touch between the two of them there. That is Lars Algera making the move, getting past Sandro.
Sendel will follow through. Labrax are kind of darting in and then back out. Connor Eddy, oh, you saw how late he was on the brakes, and it was always going to end badly.
Mediums for Vexit. Okay, mediums for all of these guys. They're going mediums to the very end here. It's up a 3-second time penalty under that pressure and pushed wide by Vexit there. That is not a nice move. And oh no, there's contact between Riptide and Lars Algera as well. Lars just about holds it together. And Christian Sendel finds his way past for free as well.
Jeffrey Ritchie now on the rear end of Sandro will want to have a go down into Ferradura. He's going to do it on the exit of Desida Delago. And Sandro will not make his life difficult. Knows that the two are on completely different strategies.
And stay ahead of Riptide. That could be quite important here. It looks like he's gonna, and actually he's gonna be almost in position to try and take it away from his teammate here. He'd love to be let past by Christian Sendel. Will he be let past? Yes, he will. Christian Sendel playing the team game there, I gotta say. I don't think there's any way he doesn't defend that otherwise. Jan Thaler, the gap between himself and Vex, it's already come down by about 0.6 of a second. Here is Vallu getting past Cameron Cooper into the Skidoo de Lago. Closing up on Labrax, who we're very disheartened to see Vallu getting past him so soon on this stint. There you go. You see the Renault on the right-hand side. And there goes the Renault. Bye-bye. And here we go. The overtake's gone green. This is going to be Jan Thaler making his way past Vexit, probably before they even get to turn 1. Vexit has nothing left in the battery, and he cannot battle back against Jan Thaler, who sets the fastest lap of the race as he passes the Red Bull. And that is passing in style.
The drivers might have been able to go that 1 lap longer. Here comes Vallu on a Connor Eddy. Connor Eddy will not defend. Vallu goes down the inside, and the soft tyres work well against those older medium tyres of a Connor Eddy. Vallu moves up to P5.
Jose on 19-lap-old hard tyres, giving Marinkello's 13-lap-old mediums something to think about there into the Skidoo de Lago. The Ferraris almost made contact there. They might have even had a bit of a tap as they ran wide. And here come the Ferraris then. Here comes Riptide trying to get past Zay. It's going to be a matter of course, really, with the difference between their tyres. 10-lap-old softs versus 20-lap-old hards. It's no contest in the end, and Riptide gets past. But Sandro got a little bit too aggressive there, and into the side he goes.
As Jeffrey Ritchie right on Christian Sendel side by side down towards turn 1.
Yeah, looks like that's an easy enough move. There is the difference in ERS in action. By side right now over third position, and there is Christian Sendel retaking the position away. Jeffrey Ritchie has nothing left in his overtake tank either, so he is going to struggle to get back past, and it is, of course, the last lap of the race as well. There's not really much in the way of overtaking opportunities left. Zay picking up a 3-second time penalty in his battle with Marankello. That is going to call that battle to a close effectively here. Marankello might look to try and get past Riptide, though. Doesn't need to because he doesn't have penalties, and Riptide does, and there's Zay! I'm not sure if he got a hit from Peso or what, but he 100%. Went round into turn 4, and as a result, he is going to drop down further. Jan Fehler, though, he's coming up towards the line to win his first race in Premier X, as it's just a matter of time now, just keeping the throttle pinned, seeing the checkered flag, and across the line to win the Brazilian Grand Prix. Disappointed in Australia, exalted here in Brazil. Vexit managing a very solid second position, but couldn't live with the strategy of Jan Fehler. Jeffrey Ritchie, another very solid podium for him in third. Christian Sendel down in fourth. Vallu, good recovery after a poor qualifying to manage fifth. Labrax gets sick. Hamo jumping up to seventh as a result of keeping his nose clean. No penalties for him. Conoretti and Luca in eighth and ninth. And now Riptide will come across the line in 10th, but Marankello will take that away. Riptide down to 11th, Peso 12th after a poor drive by his standards. Lars Algiera comes across the line, and Cameron Cooper actually hopping up to 12th there as things all sort themselves out as a result of penalty.
Buenos dias, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to round 3 of Formula X Racing Season 3 as well. The threes are out, just like how we have 3 people on the show today. We've got myself, we've got the wonderful Jacob Aladar Hancox, and we've also got the Lion, who does not have a name. Many names have been suggested, but none have been accepted. A little bit like how we've had many names win races over the course of the seasons in FXR. But for some reason, Jacob, they just keep changing race after race after race. And so far, we've only had 1 race winner here for Season 3 as well.
When you say we've only had 1 race winner, you mean we've only had people win 1 race each,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
That's what you mean. Okay. Yes. No, in the 2 races we've had so far, we've had 2 different race winners, to clarify that one. And yes, that has been a nice one. Yeah, exactly. Please give the poor fella a name. Look, he's desperate for one, really. I've suggested a name, and apparently it's not up to scratch. So you guys are going to have to come up with names of your own for that fella.
I see, scratch. That was a good one.
Honestly, I'd love to tell you that was on purpose, but it was not. But yes, let's talk about the race, because we have had 2 winners thus far this season. Both of the McLaren drivers, each Germans, have taken a win thus far. We had Christian Sendel winning in dominating fashion first time out in Australia. And then last time, Jan Fehler took the win in less convincing style, but it was still a very solid race from Jan that he never really seemed like losing. But there was stiff challenge in the form of Vexit in that Red Bull.
Yeah, and we can see on the timing, Jan Fehler winning by that 1.7 seconds. But the most impressive thing from Jan Fehler was not the fact that he won the race, weirdly enough. It was the fact that he was the only driver who was able to make it into Q3 with a set of the medium tires. He had the strategy advantage. He was able to match Vexit. Despite not being in the DRS zone, he was able to match Vexit's lap times on the harder compound of tires. And then when he put on the softs, from there, it was pretty much a clean sailing for the XC Sports driver.
Yeah, and there was a lot of ERS management that went on as well. Jan was using his ERS at all the right times, whereas Vexit was always running low. Throughout the whole race, he was sort of really pushing that ERS a lot, lap after lap. And that was great for the first few laps when he was able to build a bit of an advantage, but it did leave him vulnerable to Jan once Jan got back within range of him again.
I think the other thing that's weird to say, and yes, I'm using this term when we're only in the second round of the championship, so taking it out of context somewhat, but it's weird to say that Vallu's best result of the season is P5.
Yes, of course, we are only 2 races into the season, so we shouldn't get too ahead of ourselves there. But yes, Vallu is yet to get a podium. He is our defending champion, and he was such a champion last season. We saw a field that was admittedly weaker than this one, but I don't think it was a huge degree weaker. Vallu has now changed to driving without the racing line, had a really rough race in Australia. Apparently, on that day, Vallu was very sort of very tired. I think he'd been doing a 24-hour race before or something like that, or had
Ooh.
some sort of thing like that. I can't remember what it was now. And then this last race as well, he just didn't quite make the cut. He tried to qualify in Q2 on the medium tires, and unfortunately, he was the one who fell out. He was only a tenth away from the time set by some of the other medium tire runners who made it through. So it was really very unlucky, and it was just a recovery from that point. And to be fair to Vallu, it was a perfectly decent recovery from 12th up to 5th.
Yeah, he managed to make it up to 5th, qualified in P12. He tried to qualify through in the second qualifying session on medium tyres, just like Jan Fehler, but was unable to do so successfully and struggled to make his way up through the order. Only 3 seconds behind Christian Sendel at the end, so not terrible. Also, we had a few debutees for Season 3, but both the drivers that we have seen in the past in the form of the VRT drivers of Luka and our Season 1 champion, Jane Trepkov. And it's safe to say one of the VRT drivers had a much better showing than the other.
Yeah, we were worried for both of them after Q1, though, when they both fell out in that very first qualifying session. Luca qualifying 16th and Jane qualifying 17th. And then it was actually Jane that had the better first lap of the two. He made up a fair few positions at the very start, I seem to remember. But he then went off going in towards the penultimate corner. It's a very weird place to go off, but he was well off the road, all over the grass, sideways. And his race was pretty much done from there. He brought it home to the flag to claim his points for 17th, but nevertheless, he would have liked a much cleaner time of it. But on the other shoe, there was Luca, who made slow and steady progress up through the field on a contra strategy. And then, even with a 9-second time penalty at the end, which was more than anyone else mustered, he still managed to finish in ninth there inside the top 10, bagging some really good points as the reserve driver for Renault.
Yeah, and good stuff from Lucas actually put him up to 14th in the Drivers' Championship. One of the drivers that I was actually most impressed with at Brazil last week was actually Maranello, able to pull out a P10. We knew he'd be kind of around the midfield, but we were expecting him to be somewhat lower. So good to see him bagging his first top 10 of the season this early on.
Yeah, no, it was definitely a very good race from Maranello. The pace was just there. He was 10th in qualifying, made it through to Q3, got that 10th place spot. And after Australia, I was a little bit concerned for Maranello. I mean, generally, I think we're expecting to see him in the bottom half of the field more than the top half, just because of the strength of the field. But he does have the potential. Every now and again, he does have a pretty good race. And I think this was one of those races. So hopefully, for his sake, he can continue on with that trajectory. Because a 10th place after qualifying 10th, just solid pace throughout the race, always feels good.
Now, if we do take a look to our championship standings, Christian Sendel, Jan Fehler, Vexit separated by 2 points. Jan Fehler only ahead of Vexit due to having the race win from due to having the race win from Brazil. Yeah. But it's still so close, and we are expecting Vallu hopefully to be upping the pace and having, let's say, less bad luck in his next race and being able to bolster Red Bull in their battle with McLaren for the Constructors' Championship.
Indeed, yeah. It only takes a couple of podiums, maybe a win for Vallu with either Jan Fehler, Christian Sendel, Vexit, or any of those guys having an off race, and then Vallu is going to be right back up there. It's nowhere near an insurmountable gap, even though it looks like a very large gap in terms of points. But for those of you who don't know, we have a different point scoring system here in Formula X racing, which means you get a lot more points for winning. Is it 46 points? 46 points for the race win. So as you can see, that would more than double Vallu's total right now. So that shows you that it's really not out of reach for him. And theoretically, it's definitely not out of reach for the likes of Connor, J. Hamo, Peso as well, sitting there just below. But those guys we're not expecting to reach the same heights. Maybe Peso, though, we might be looking at to improve based on last round's performance, at least.
And I'm glad you bring up Pacer because he's the driver that I do want to talk about before we move on to our next segment. because Peso was the driver. He was kind of the focus back in Division 1 when he took the championship. There were high hopes for him coming in for Premier X in Season 3, and he delivered in the opening race. He managed to take P5, he qualified P4, and Brazil, okay, it didn't look like it was going to be great, but it looked okay, qualifying P7, but then finishing 13th. Not a good day for him, and or I, at the very least, am expecting him to bounce back here in Mexico to jump up the order.
Yeah, it was really curious actually watching his race in Brazil. Just that downward spiral was really odd to see. But we know that we can expect a lot more from Peso, just from what we've seen from him last season in Premier X as well. So, yeah, I think it's only a matter of time before Peso is back out there battling for fourth, fifth, maybe even that odd podium.
Now, with that, we got to handicap one of the drivers recently. And some people might be watching thinking, oh, God, what have Formula X Racing done to one of these lovely drivers? Well, what we did is we removed their ability to see, not permanently, just temporarily, as we made them go around a lap at France at the circuit Paul Ricard just to see how well they could do while blindfolded. Riptide was our first contestant last week, and this time we got Ollie P in for his first attempt at the blindfold challenge. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another blindfold challenge. This time, we've got the very unlucky Ollie P, who's alongside me, at least on screen. Ollie, how you doing?
I'm doing all right, man. Looking forward to it.
Now, I'm guessing you've seen the first blindfold challenge with Riptide.
Yeah.
And from what you told me, your parents watched it as well. So have they been prepping you? Have they been giving you any advice for how to do this successfully?
No advice so far, but when I told them I was doing it, they said, "Golly, you got to do some practice. Come on." So I'm hoping I won't let them down with this one. But we'll
so
see
have you practiced doing the blindfold challenge then?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I haven't.
I don't know if we'd count that as, cheating almost. Imagine try-harding for the blindfold challenge, right?
You can't count preparation as cheating. Not that I've done any, obviously.
Obviously,
But...
okay. Right, so we're going to be hitting France. Now, the first thing that everyone wants to see, Ollie, is what is your blindfold?
You see, I couldn't find a blindfold, but modern problems require modern solutions, so I've got a mask.
Okay.
So...
Right, so the mask is going to be going over the face. Cool, just like it's supposed to.
This is how you're meant to wear them, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's a new fashion statement, to be honest.
I agree. Now I can't... Okay, here we go. This works.
Okay, I've got to do the same thing I did with Riptide. How many fingers am I holding up?
I have absolutely no idea.
Yeah, I think it's good. Okay, so if you are ready, Ollie, first of all, do you think you can beat Riptide's time?
I mean, Riptide didn't seem to be having the best time of it, but I think it's probably a lot harder than it looks, so we'll see.
Okay, so if you're ready, it's X to go to track. And X to go for flying lap. Right, here we go. So we're making our way through the long left-hander, and we are off. Turn right. No, not left. Right. More right, more right, more right. We're off track. More right. We're still off track. Okay, keep going in this direction. Hard left. Okay, we're in a wall. Slow down. Left. Okay, right. It's fine. It's just like Riptide. We're facing in the wrong direction now. It's fine. The whole thing's burning. Okay. Reverse to the left.
To the left?
Yes. Okay. A bit more. Bit more. Okay, we're ready to go. Turn right, and then we're like on the little straight just before the final corner.
Okay.
So 90 degrees right here. More right, more right. Okay. Keep going straight. We're approaching the final corner. I'm going to get scolded by your parents. Right. Turn right.
We're both going to get scolded by my
We both are. Okay. Straighten up the car. We're cutting through the final corner onto the straight. This is the most perfect run you could ever get to start your flying lap. Okay, turn a little bit more to the right. More right, more right, more right, more right. Okay, we're banking off walls here. Okay, just go in a straight line now. We're pointing in literally straight all the way on the right of the track. Okay. Do you want to use your DRS? It's optional. Oh, wow. We're getting the DRS usage. Okay, pull the car to the right a bit here. Okay. Oh, this is good. Fourth gear. Cruising along at 200k. Pull the car more to the right. We're approaching T1. Get ready to brake. Brake. Left. More left, more left, more left. Okay. And right. No, more right, more right, more right. Okay, turn left a bit, turn left a bit, turn left a bit. We're on the second straight now. More to
Okay.
the left, more to the left. More to the left. Oh, wow, we got airborne there. That was impressive. To the right now, to the right.
That's like an airborne of France.
I don't know. Right to the left. No, left, not right, left. Right, we're in a war. We need to reverse. Okay, right, go and turn to the left. 90 degrees left, we need to go. Okay, a bit more. That's it. Okay, straight. Okay, bit to the right. We're making our way down into turn 3. Oh, good wall banging. Right, hard right, hard right, hard right, hard right, hard right. Okay, and left, 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 left. Okay, straighten up the car. Oh, this is good. Okay, bit more to the left. Okay, turn right. Okay, straighten up. Okay, left, 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 left. Okay, reverse, reverse, reverse.
What am I hitting?
We're in the double right hander right now. Okay, stop reversing. Forward and left.
Okay.
Forward and left. More left. Okay, straight right, 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 right. We're going through the long right hander now.
Okay.
Okay, straighten up the car. Straighten up the car. Okay, go. We're about to make our way through the left kink. Yeah, just keep going straight. This is fine. This is fine. Riptide won't mind if we're corner cutting. Let's go straight. Okay, we're on the back straight. Pull the car to the left a bit. Okay, no, it's fine. Never mind. You use the wall to bounce. Okay, the wall bouncing is absolutely on point here. Get ready to brake. In 3, 2, 1, brake. Left, 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 left. Okay, straighten up the car. Right, turn to the right. More right, more right, more right. Okay, left, 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 left. Okay, this is fine. Wall banging. Okay, steer to the right. Right, 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 right. That's good. Okay, we're wall banging. The wall banging is on point right now, Ollie. How's the lap feeling so far for you?
Oh, excellent.
Okay, honestly, this wall banging is fantastic. We're about to make our way. We're coming into the fast right-hander, so turn a bit.
I'm telling you, Lewis Hamilton fears these lines.
This is just amazing. Right, straighten up the car. Brake. And right. Right, right. Okay, straight, straight, straight. No, left, 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 no, left. We're in a wall. Okay, reverse out, reverse out. We can see ourselves on the TV screen, actually. That's pretty cool. Okay, stop reversing. Straight and left.
Straight and left.
Left, yes. Okay, we're making our way into the long right-handed. Right. No, more right. Okay, straight, straight, straight. You turned more right after you straightened it up.
You said more right.
Yeah, and then we did the right, and then you went more right. Okay, reverse.
I don't know when the right's done. I can't see anything. That's the whole point of this challenge.
Stop. Yeah, but you should know the track. Right, straight and left.
I do, but I don't know where we are.
Straight and left. More left, more left. We're making our way into the worst corner at France. Okay, turn right a bit, turn right a bit. This is too much corner cutting. We can't allow this. Okay, left. Hard left, hard left. There we go. Straight, 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 straight. Okay, this is good. Right, let's keep going straight. This is a good time. This is okay. Turn right a bit. More right, more right, more right, more right. Okay, straight. No, right. No. Okay, brake and left. Hard left, hard left. We're in the penultimate corner. We've invalidated our next lap. Good job. Right. Straight. Straight.
I got in neutral.
Right, right. Okay, left, left, on left. I don't know how we've made such a chicane. No. Okay, this is too much cheating. We've got to go back. We've got to turn left now.
What, we got to go back?
We cut the corner too much, Ollie.
I'm going at 2 miles an hour.
Okay, fine. Turn right and go straight then. I'll let YouTube chat deal with you. Hard right, harder right, harder right. Okay, this is left, 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 left. No. Okay, reverse, reverse. Come on, we can still beat the time. Okay, straight and hard left. Spin it to the left. 90 degrees left. We're on the start finish straight. Yes, okay. Left, right, 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 right. Fuck. Reverse. Come on, we can still do it. First gear, reverse. Okay, right. Floor it to the right. Floor it, floor it, floor it. No, reverse. Okay, stop and go to the right. Just going so slowly.
You just go to the right.
You need to spin it round a bit. Okay, go to the right.
Well, spin it or just go to the right?
Just go to the right. Just go to the right. It's fine now. Okay, just go straight. Go. Just floor it. Floor it. We'll wallbang all the way there. And it's a 5:19.6.
Oh.
I think that is 20 seconds slower than Riptide.
God damn it! No, this is big. This is big.
I'm sorry. There
Take
were
the mask off now.
there were definitely some questionable moments on my part.
What, you mean the bit where you didn't tell me to stop turning right?
Yeah, that bit in particular. No, I don't get what it is, right? I can't understand this because I haven't done the blindfold challenge myself. But for some reason, when I tell people to turn right, they initially turn left. And it makes no sense to me. Because Riptide did it, and now you've done it as well.
I don't know. Oh.
You can...
Oh, God. What the hell was
The thing is, right, there were bits where I'd say, right, okay, turn right. But you turn your wheel as you do like 5 kilometers an hour. From what I hear, Jacob, apparently some of Ollie P's relatives may be watching this stream. So, what I will say is I will not be deliberately attempting to ruin Ollie's laps, at least here in Mexico. And hopefully there'll be significantly less wall banging from Ollie in Mexico. We can't guarantee this. Ollie does have some questionable driving at times, but I'm sorry, Ollie. I'm sure you're going to do well today. Jacob, let's talk about this beautiful track to my left, our left,
Yes.
on the screen right, on everyone else's right, though. Mexico, the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, a very tricky track, but we have seen great battling here in the past.
Yeah, I think it's a really, really nice track, actually. I'm a big fan of it. Of course, in the game, you do get 3 DRS zones. One of them a very long straight indeed. So you do tend to get some DRS trains forming. However, the length of the DRS zone into turn 1 is such that actually you do see a lot of the time drivers opting to change position rather than just holding station like they usually do, because usually you can actually guarantee an overtake pretty easily with the level of slipstreaming and the effect of the DRS that you can get down that main straight. So we do tend to see maybe a bit more fighting, a bit more position changing here than you do at certain other tracks with long straights in the calendar.
Yeah, we talk about those DRS trains that like to form 3 DRS straights for that to happen. But what I want to talk about the most with regards to this circuit is how many different strategies we can see forming, because usually I think the standard, the meta strategy, if you will, is a 2-stop strategy. If you're qualifying in the top 10, then you're going soft, medium, mediums, or soft, medium, softs, depending on your tire wear. But maybe for those starting outside the top 10, we could see some drivers risking it with a hard to medium strategy.
It's definitely possible. I've seen a lot of different strategies over the course of the F1 2020 game at Mexico. I've commentated on 3 or 4 races probably, and 3 or 4 league races, that is. And yeah, I've seen all kinds of different things, to be honest. There's been, some of them have been, rain affected races as well. Some of them had safety cars, some of them hasn't. And it's basically, you really don't know what you're going to get.
And one of the other big things with this circuit are the corner cutting penalties. So many penalties can come through. We actually saw it last season in Division 1 in Premier X. I think it was A2 UK had something like 25 seconds worth of time penalties. And in Division 1, the race winner, which was Lars Algera, had 9 or 12 seconds of time penalties, which saw him drop down to P2 or P3. But with that said, as our viewers can clearly see, we're here in Mexico, and we're riding aboard with the Yanni Tripkov for the first hot lap of the session.
Yeah, and Yanni has a bit of pressure on here. Actually had a really good race at Mexico. Most recent time I've seen him at Mexico, I seem to remember. Last season, I think he did really well here, if I'm remembering correctly. So I'm hoping for a big weekend from Yanni, not being able to attend the first race of the season due to issues with pedals, and then the new pedals then not working, having to go back to older ones at the last race in Brazil that he hadn't done much practice on. So, yeah, there's been some issues for Yanni at the start of this season, which has not helped our Season 1 champion getting his campaign off the ground. But hopefully here today we'll be able to see something a little bit better. Straight off the bat, we got a 1:13.840 from Yanni. I don't think that time's going to set the world alight, but it's not too bad.
Yeah, and in terms of the kind of ideal pace, again, we're talking about at the end of Q3, we're expecting those mid to high 12s, probably going to be seeing something like a 12.6, maybe a 12.5 for your pole time. So your cutoff point to be making it into Q2 should be probably at around the kind of lap time that Yanni is doing, 13.8, maybe even a little bit lower into, you know, the kind of mid-13s as well, depending on how quick everyone is looking.
Yeah, and one other thing to note is another full grid here today, which means we are going to have the full 5 drivers getting knocked out of Q1, which always makes Q1 that little bit more exciting when the stakes are higher for more drivers. One reserve driver joining us today, and it is a familiar face. I'm sure everyone will remember Maverick, who is joining the Renault team to replace Ice Looper here today. And we'll see how Maverick's going to be able to stack up compared to previous seasons against this new Premier X grid as well. But here we are on board then with Cameron Cooper in the Mercedes, who's been quietly having a very good season thus far.
Yeah, and let's see what Cameron Cooper can pull out. We expected him to be towards the lower end of the championship, but P12 in both of his opening races means that the Mercedes driver currently sits in P12 with a total of 18 points, as he has a huge moment with the rear on the exit of turn 3, but able to keep it somewhat in check. And at the end of Sector 1, a 28.0.
Yeah, so I'll admit I'm not wholly brushed up on my sector times at the moment, so that might not be very impressive, or it might be terribly impressive. I really don't know at the moment, so let's try and work it out. And just seeing Yade in the chat there saying he thought he was desync because everyone else was just waiting in the pits and he was the only one out there. But no, it was just Yade being eager, wanting to get out there, no one else feeling the need to. We did see Cameron Cooper invalidating his lap there, so now we're on board with his teammate Connor Eddy instead, who is heading into the very final sector of the lap and keeping it calm through here. You don't want to gun the throttle too hard because it's very, very slippery, particularly on the exit of this corner. Drag it over to the right-hand side and up towards the line. Connor Eddy only a 1:13.925, just a tenth shy of what Yanni Tripkov was able to offer.
But we are fully expecting to see, Jacob, as the kind of track evolves over the course of the session, those times are to drop down. It's everyone's first lap, so, you know, not only is the track slower because it's not rubbered in, you know, there's also an element of drivers just needing to get familiar with the circuit again. They do their first lap and they're like, wait, hang on, why am I braking here? I'm supposed to brake, you know, 10 meters later, and the times will drop. Let's see what KX Ricardo can pull out, one of the drivers who is yet to make it to the second session of qualifying so far.
I'll tell you what, those are some really, really nice lines through Sector 2. You know, all over the right parts of the road, cutting the corners just the perfect amount without risking any invalidations or anything like that. And it's nice in the final sector thus far as well. We'll see whether it's fast on top of sort of stylish and smooth looking, but nevertheless, I'm pretty impressed with this lap thus far from what we've seen from KX Ricardo. And indeed, he does go to the top of 3 drivers who have set a time thus far. But it's only a tenth ahead of Yanni, 2 tenths ahead of Connor Eddy, so still quite a cagey opening to affairs. Not too many drivers out there quite yet, but a few more getting on their outlaps, the likes of Peso in the Williams being one of them.
Let's see what Peso can pull out, one of the drivers that we were mentioning in the pre-show who will be wanting to up his game and forget the occurrences of last week in Brazil. And you were talking a little bit about the lines that we saw from KX Ricardo through the middle sector, and yeah, they were pretty much spot on, something that I was talking about in the track guide. For those who don't know about it, every week we do a track analysis of whichever circuit is coming up before the week, and we just kind of hear all the points that the drivers will be wanting to nail. And here at Mexico, it's a case of being able to, you know, abuse the track limits as much as possible, and that's what Ricardo did. Let's see if Peso can do that for his first flying lap of the day.
And we'll find out, because turn 1 is basically the first attempt for that. Turn 2 in particular, you need to get quite a lot of cutting done if you're going to set the ideal lap time. And that's a bit wide through turn 1, a bit of a lock-up on the inside front there, but a nice cut through 2 and through 3 without invalidating on either of them, using the road on the exit as well. So the second part of that 3-corner complex is pretty good from Peso. The first corner maybe left a little bit to be desired, but we'll see. It's a 27.8 for that first sector split, but again, he was deep there into turn 4. So just struggling a little bit on the brakes at the end of the very long straights, misjudging his braking zones ever so slightly in that Williams. But everything apart from that has looked pretty good. Maybe a touch wide there on the entry to 7, through and wide on the exit, so he's had to compromise himself throughout the rest of this S section. Maybe had to get out of it a bit there to avoid invalidating on the exit of 11 as well. So not quite so clean looking as Ricardo. He's sort of hanging on to it. He's struggling to hang on to it a little bit more than what we saw from the Racing Point, but it could still be very fast, as his teammate Sandro has actually gone to the top of the order for the time being with a 1:13.686. Will this be a 13.5 from Peso? No, it's a 13.3 instead, so comfortably top for now in the Williams.
Yeah, and it's one of the weird things with this circuit. You'd think that you want to cut through the apex of it turn one, but actually, for some reason, it's slightly slower, so it's kind of best just to, kiss the apex slightly, maybe stay away. We'll see whether this man, Jeffrey Ritchie, will do that heading into a turn one. And we do have 8 minutes left of qualifying at the moment.
Hamo goes and upsets his HMW stablemate there by knocking Peso down to second and going up to first himself. So what that should mean is that Ollie P should then go to the top next. At the moment, it's 2x2x2x2. Zola kind of ruins that by going into sixth, but Marinkello can keep it back up again. And we'll see if he does. Vallu's here on an outlap. He's invalidated his outlap, but that's not going to be terribly important, I think. Both Mercedes drivers, interestingly, out there did a couple of laps on their set of soft tyres. Cameron Cooper did improve on his second run, but of course his first run was a 26 because he invalidated his very first run. So, yeah, neither of them were able to get a whole lot out of that second flying lap on the set of soft tyres, but it's interesting to see both of the Mercedes drivers opting for that particular direction.
Yeah, Vallu has a huge moment with his rear end as he starts his first flying lap. We'll see what Vallu can pull through. He'll just be wanting to do one lap, and we'll be hoping that that time will be enough to get him into the second session of qualifying. Not going to leave it too late because there is a fairly high risk here at Mexico that one can invalidate their lap time.
Yes, and invalidating is something that Vallu is very familiar with. He does it every now and again. It was a sort of thing last season where he didn't have it. Was at least one critically timed invalidation per qualifying session. So, yeah, it's important for him to get out there just to make sure, because he can't really afford to be greedy, to be cocky in these qualifying sessions at this point. When the season's already sort of slipping away from him a little bit, he needs to be able to bring that back under control again, and can't really afford to take too many silly risks. His teammate Vexit's gone to the top with the first 1:12 time, a 1:12.844. That is a very strong time here in Q1. Congratulations to Vexit on that one. Maverick's come across the line with only a 1:14.479. That's ahead of only Cameron Cooper, and Vallu is back straight on out of this lap, so he'll be going again in just a moment's time.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure why Vallu's backing out this lap. We'll see whether he dives on into the pit. I don't think he will. 13-1 for Jan Fehler, your race winner from Brazil. And he's a few tenths off of exit, but don't let that deceive you, because I'm sure Jan Fehler is holding a little something back ahead of the final session of qualifying.
Yeah, it could well be the case. We've seen some slightly sort of inconsistent performances from Jan Fehler in individual qualifying sessions, if you catch what I mean. So, like, maybe in Q2 he doesn't set quite such a good lap time, and then in Q3 he smashes it. Or maybe he looks shaky in Q1, but then he's great in Q2, that sort of thing. So it wouldn't surprise me if we have more to come from Jan Fehler going on throughout this qualifying session. But Vexit is going to be still very happy with that margin at the top for the time being. Let's see if Christian Sendel can make him a little bit less happy as he comes across the line. And no, he cannot. Doesn't even displace Hamo there in third. Christian Sendel in fourth and narrowly ahead of Peso there. It's not a cause for concern yet. It's only Q1 and he might have made a mistake, but nevertheless, he won't be best pleased by being down in fourth and about half a second away from what Vexit's been able to offer.
And this is the kind of top quality of drivers that we were expecting, or these were the kind of names we were expecting to be at the top of the standing. Obviously, we were expecting the likes of Vexit, Jan Fehler, Christian Sendel, this man Vallu, who's making his way through the final corner and will surely be joining them at the top end. Yep, there you go, a 13-1 to make it a Red Bull 1-2. But we were also expecting Hamo and Peso to be up there with the McLarens and Red Bulls from time to time in qualifying. Maybe didn't expect them to have the race consistency to match them all the way through, but especially in the early stages of qualifying, they were always going to be right up at the front of the field.
Yeah, indeed. But it's just first blood here to Red Bull in their battle with McLaren. Of course, it's a paper cut. It's nothing more as far as McLaren are concerned. But it is nice to see them really taking. Well, I mean, they hurt. Exactly. They hurt. They hurt, but they don't hurt in the long run, right? So maybe Jan Fehler, Christian Sendel, they're looking at that going, ooh, but, they won't worry about it too much come Q2. But right now, we got Jeffrey Ritchie, Marinkello, and Zay, who are yet to set lap times. Riptide, Maverick, and Cameron Cooper, all looking quite vulnerable there in the 1:14s. Everyone else has made it into the 1:13s. It's interesting that Connor Eddy is down there in 14th right now, currently sitting 6th in the championship. So he will be hoping to get further up the order. Of course, he was one of the first drivers out there, though, so he might well be shooting up the order once he gets to take advantage of the track improvement. But it's interesting. I assume Zay must have invalidated his first attempt. I know Marinkello did, and Jeffrey Ritchie obviously has as well. Jeffrey actually going back out on the same set of soft tires that he invalidated his first run on. A little bit of confidence there.
And that's what we would expect from the man who finished P3 in the opening 2 races. He doesn't want to waste a set of tires, and I personally think this is the smart decision. He may lose, you know, half a tenth, maybe a tenth at most over the course of a lap, which I don't think would be enough to compromise him. I'm honestly looking at the standings right now, Jacob, and I'm trying to think of a smart comment of who's in danger. But to be honest, I think everyone from Sandro in P7 down is in danger, because from Sandro down to Connor Eddy, you're talking about just over 2 tenths, and those 2 tenths could easily disappear in the blink of an eye. Right now, for certain, though, Riptide, Maverick, Cameron Cooper definitely need to improve. Jeffrey Ritchie, we're expecting to jump right up towards the top of the standings. Marinkello and Zay, 2 drivers that have been kind of silently impressive over the course of the opening 2 races so far. We'll see what they can pull out. But for now, the Alfa Romeo makes his way into Sector 3.
Yeah, Jeffrey Ritchie should be putting this one beyond doubt in just a moment's time for his qualification, at least into Q2. And we'll see whether that's going to be the case. Final corner now from Jeffrey Ritchie, and of course onto that right-hand side up towards the line, and it's a 1:13.511. I think that's enough. I don't think there's going to be enough drivers behind him that improve, especially considering you got the likes of Maverick and Cameron Cooper, who seem to be just a little bit off the pace right now. So they are desperately going to need to improve if they're going to get up there with the rest of the pack and have a hope of getting out here of Q2. I see Maverick in chat also saying that he hasn't been able to practice very much for this race, so that might explain being down there on a 1:14.4. But it also suggests he might not have a whole lot left in the tank with which to improve. Zay goes up there onto a 14:4.02 as well. That's going to be a bit of a sigh of relief for all of the drivers sort of lab racks upwards, because Zay getting that 1:14.4 means that's one fewer driver that can move ahead of them.
Precisely. So maybe it's time to get a good old poll out in the Twitch chat. What do you think the cutoff time is going to be for those making it into Q2? Should we say a 13.7 and below, or above a 13.7?
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, should we say, does a 13.79 make it into Q2? Something like that. I think that would be the
I like that.
margin.
Yeah. That sounds like a good shout. But let's see if this has been a good shout for Yarney Tripkov. He's currently in P12, so he's on the borderline of already being safe. And can he improve by any more? A 13.6 will be an improvement by 2 tenths and should see him safely into Q2.
Yeah, so he joins Connor Eddy in the basically safe to Q2 now. And Connor, after that initially slightly poor attempt. Marinkello, that's not how you take turn 1 at all, sir. Very wide through there and not really collecting it up all that well through 2 and 3 either. So Marinkello, this lap, before it's even begun, seems to have gone in the wrong direction entirely, and it will be a miracle if the Italian can make it through into Q2 now, especially after running wide through turn 4. He's backed out of it entirely, and I don't think he has any time left to get on another lap. So this might be Marinkello done and dusted here in qualifying, and qualifying in 20th.
Not a good showing for Marinkello. Qualified P19 in Australia.
Okay, well, sorry about that. But yeah, it seems like Milky might be having a few internet troubles right now. So just take over for the time being. But yeah, no, really bad news for Marinkello. Zay and Cameron Cooper both sitting in the pits as well. So they will not be able to improve either. So it's just Riptide and Maverick now who are looking to squeak their way up into the top 15. Oh, wait, Marinkello just got through. He didn't get the checkered flag. He just managed to get through in time to set another lap. So Marinkello, it might not be all over for him after all here. The Haas driver gets one more shot at it. Zola's in the pits, his teammate. So Zola might be the one who's vulnerable here to the likes of Riptide and Maverick. So let's see what they can do. Or maybe it'll be Marinkello to condemn his teammate down into the depths of Q1. Let's see Riptide then coming into the final sector. Nice little cut through turn 14 there. That's exactly how you want to do it. Throttle down, smooth as you like on the exit, and up towards the line, and it's easily enough for Riptide. Up into 9th place he goes. Zola then will be descending out of qualifying as well. Now it's up to Maverick to try and put Labrax down. It's no longer Labrax, it's Lars Algera who's on the bubble. Can Maverick be the one to put him down? No, he cannot. Maverick will only be managing 17th, so it's up to Marinkello. and he retires because he had invalidated his final attempt. And with that, we have Q1 over and done with. So we'll see then the order as Vexit with a clear 0.3 of a second margin to Vallu there. Very impressive stuff from the Englishman. Both of the Red Bulls sitting pretty at the very top. And it's Zola, Maverick, Zay, Cameron Cooper, and Marinkello who fall out here in Q1. And I got to say, there's not really any big surprises there. It's the sort of drivers that we would be expecting down there towards the very bottom. KX Ricardo will be happy with having got out of Q1. Same for Sandra Van Sand, who's had a relatively poor start to the season. Hopefully for them, they'll be able to progress even further than just Q2 as well. Lars Algera, he'll be wanting to find a bit more pace as well because he was mopping the sweat off his brow coming towards the end of that one.
And it seems, Jacob, that I have returned. And I see that Lars Algero just scraped his way in. So that's very lucky for the Alfa Romeo driver.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, indeed. It is very, very lucky indeed. Who knows if Marinkello had been able to get a clean lap together, Lars might have been toast. And he wasn't. He was less than a second off of the ultimate top time. And that top time was 0.3 ahead of second. So he was about 0.6 away from second place. And he was in danger of getting knocked out there in Q1, which again just shows you how close this whole field is right now. But here we are then into Q2, and it is a Red Bull that's going to be the first one out there. Is that Vallu or is it Vexit? I imagine it would be Vexit. We'll wait and see here, as I'm just waiting for the outlap thing to pop up, and it is Vallu. Okay, so it's Vallu who's going out there first, but Vexit's following him not long after. So both of the Red Bulls are going out there for the beginning of Q2 here, and they're both going on soft tires as well. So they're not opting for the mediums at this stage of this qualifying session.
And we'll have to see whether these soft tires are for banker laps. Sometimes we do see the drivers who want to set their fast lap on a set of mediums. They'll go out first, maybe on their Q1 soft tires, just to set a banker time, and just so that when they are on their mediums, they can get a good idea of where they're dropping time. And it just gives you a bit of a motivation just to be able to... In fact, the late more grip you have.
Yeah, indeed. It gives you that. It gives you that motivation when you see that little green bit in the top right. You know you're going faster. You know you're doing well, and even if it backs off at the end of the lap, which they can do on this set of soft tires, this might well be. If that's the case, if that's what they're doing, this might well be a used set of soft tires from Q1 as well. That they will just back out of the lap completely on it. At the moment, it's only Yanni Tripkov who's thinking about mediums in the pit lane. But with only the two Red Bulls out there, everyone else is pretty much yet to make a decision. Still sitting in the pits at this point. And we'll see whether anyone else is going to go for those yellow-walled medium tires in a few moments' time. But let's take a look at Vallu then as he commences his first flying lap of this second part of qualifying. And you can see all the cutting a little bit wider than he would like there through turn 3, actually. Not cutting quite as much as he would usually want if he was going to get an optimal time through there. And nicely done through 4. Get it turned in. You got to make sure you get enough rotation through 5. The exit behind is already invalidated, but that might be intentional just to get that delta with an invalidation down. We might well see Vallu intentionally invalidating in just a moment's time here as well. He played with fire through turn 7 in terms of invalidating, but didn't manage to do so. He's using up all of the road, every last bit possible. Bit of a moment on the exit at turn 11 there, but he held it on nicely in that Red Bull, and into the stadium section we go. A bit wide there through 12. That won't have helped him out terribly much, but 13 is nice and smooth. Same for 14 and 15. There is the invalidation as well to make sure that this lap won't count. And then up towards the line to set that delta time. And I'm afraid I can't see what it is because we don't have the thing in the top right. There we go. It's a 1:13.4. So that was not as quick as what he managed. That 1:13.1, I believe, was Vallu's best time in Q1. So the delta, it'll be generous to him on his next lap because it will give him a lot of improvement.
Yeah, so it's only the Red Bulls out on circuit at the moment. Everyone else just waiting in the pits, just waiting for the timer to tick down before they look to set a lap in. And most drivers, they're only going to be wanting to put in one lap on those soft tires. Maybe not even give it 110%. Maybe just do a lap at 95% just so that they can get through, at least for some of the top drivers. And we're talking about Christian Sendel, Jan Fehler, maybe even putting Pesso and Hamo in that list as well, just because you want the freshest possible tires to start your race. But Vexit this time, he's not invalidated as he makes his way through turn 6 and now down into the S's.
Yeah, I think this is just an in-lap, though, for the Red Bull, although he is pushing it here through the second sector by the look of things. But I don't imagine this is going to be a completed lap. I think we're probably going to be seeing... Yeah, he's on 0 ERS as well. So both Red Bulls are just going to be heading back into the pits in a few moments' time. Peso is out there on an outlap, though, already. Connor Eddy's out there, and Jeffrey Ritchie's just joined them out on circuit. So there's a bit more activity from the rest of the field. It's not just the Red Bulls providing us with our Q2 entertainment now, as they're actually done for the time being, as they will both head back into that pit lane. And a Renault is also leaving the pits. That has to be Labrax.
And I want to talk a little bit, actually, about the man who just scraped into Q2, Lars Algera, because last season, in Season 2, back in Division 1, Lars Algera was one of the few drivers over the course of the season that was actually able to beat Pesso when it came to raw pace. The only other driver was Walter back in Monza. Aside from that, in pure pace, Pesso had everyone's number, and it was only Lars Algera who was able to beat him, and it was here in Mexico. He ended up finishing behind due to time penalties, but I'm hopeful that we can see that A tier, that S tier Lars Algera tonight, and I have a feeling we might be seeing him in Q3, but the time he put in Q1 does not make me hopeful. So hopefully he can pick up his stuff and put down a solid time in the second session of qualifying.
Yeah, the past would suggest that this ought to be a good circuit for him, but the Canadian was slightly disappointing in Q1, as you mentioned, only narrowly squeaking through. I didn't get to catch whether he managed a second clean lap or whether he had to back out of his second lap or anything like that. So there might well be mitigating circumstances there for Lars Algera as well. It's slightly hard to tell. But we'll find out soon enough here in Q2 whether it's the real deal or not from the Alfa Romeo, as Connor Eddy picks up an invalidation there by cutting through the S section. So that's not necessarily going to be ideal for him. Let's see what Peso is able to do, as he's pushing just behind out in that Williams. And he nails that middle sector of the lap, 54.5, coming towards the end of Sector 2. Now into Sector 3 we go. Tight hairpin of 13, runs a little bit too wide on the exit. That's going to compromise his line into 14 as well. But he scoops it up nicely for that final corner. Big moment under traction and up towards the line. And it is a 1:13.267, so that's better than what he managed in Q1. A decent lap time, and there's at least a tenth more to be found in that final sector.
I actually think that will be enough to get him into Q3. I think Peso's done just about enough. That's only a second off, the world record time, which is a 12.2. Over on at time trial. Let's see what Hamo can pull out. Remember, Hamo and Peso were very close to each other in Q1. And I think these two are going to be championship rivals with each other over the course of the season as well. 27.8 at the end of the opening sector, and that's a decent first sector time.
Yeah, Hamo's been decently impressive thus far this season. 7th in both races, and therefore 7th in the championship. His qualifying's been a little bit less good. He's managed a 12th and a 9th thus far, so hopefully here today he'll be able to elevate that one further. It's on an uptrend at least in those first couple of races. He'll be at least looking to make sure he doesn't recreate Australia and getting knocked out in Q2, because that's definitely not going to help his chances. A 54.502. That's marginally ahead of where Peso was on his flying lap at the end of Sector 2. However, just a bit too much of a cut through 14, and Hamo invalidates. He'll have to back out of this one. Actually, it's straight into the pits for the AlphaTauri. So that's bad news, because that was a really decent lap he was on.
I think he was on for a 13.2, a 13.3. To be honest, so it would have been very close to what Peso had put in. Let's see what Yanni Tripkov can pull out. Remember, he left a lot to be desired last time out in Brazil. He's already beaten his performance from Brazil, but on the medium tires, only able to put in a 14.5.
Yeah, indeed. And then we got Jeffrey Ritchie going to the top with a 13.0. Okay, that is the second fastest lap time we've seen of all qualifying thus far. And the thing about Jeffrey Ritchie is he's got 2 podiums this season, but in qualifying he's been 9th and 5th. So qualifying hasn't necessarily been his bread and butter, but that is a good look here at, now we're halfway through Q2 really here in Premier X round 3. And there is Jan Fehler entering the final section of his lap as well. So expect to see the McLaren shooting up the order in just a moment's time. He's managed to keep this one clean and tidy as he heads towards that final corner and up towards the line. And it's not faster than Jeffrey Ritchie. It comes close. but not close enough to put him off the top spot. So the Dutchman in the Alfa Romeo really looking good right now, as it's Peso, Sandro, Labrax, Jane Trepkov, Lars Algera, and Vallu behind. But Lars Algera and Vallu, their lap times can be discounted. They are well off the pace, so they backed out of those ones somewhere around the lap.
And we did have a prediction come through, and that was, do you think a 13.2 will be enough for the drivers to make it into Q3? And at the moment, a 13.2 is most certainly enough, but we're still waiting for 6 drivers to complete a lap, and, well, 7 drivers really, because Vallu's at 23.8 is most certainly not a representative lap time, and neither is Lars Algera's 19.5, as Christian Sendel, well, he sends in a 12.8 as Vallu runs wide on the exit of the S. Is so easy to do.
Yeah, indeed. That's one of the easiest places to invalidate, but there's so many easy places to invalidate around this circuit as well. And that is a big shame for Vallu, but battle has been joined by the McLarens now. The Anfehler getting into that 13.0. That's faster than what Vallu did in Q1. Christian Sendel getting right up there into the 12.8s as well, just like Vexit was able to do in that first section of qualifying. So it looks like the shoe might well be on the other foot now, as the two McLarens are sitting pretty here in the second part of qualifying, with Vexit down there in 4th, and Vallu really struggling to string a lap together whatsoever. He's going to have to go back out on a new, fresh set of tyres and try again.
And let's see if he can improve. You'd have to think that, well, quite a few drivers will be improving. Jane Trepkov is putting on a set of soft tyres. He's in the pits right now. And let's see what Ollie P can pull out. Well, this week's a blindfold contestant. And, well, he told me that he thinks that blindfold challenge will help him here in Mexico. And at the moment, he's made it into Q2. So I guess a good start for Ollie.
Yeah, and avoids any invalidation through that second section of the lap as well. A 54.7. That's a couple of tenths down on what we saw from the likes of Peso and was it Hamo earlier on as well. So Ollie is currently looking at a sort of 13.5, that sort of area. Let's see whether he maintains that in the final sector as he comes up towards the line. And it's a 13.503. Bit of a gap between himself and Peso, but that might just be enough to squeak into the top 10. Plenty of drivers still to set laps, though, so that might well be proved wrong. And Hamo might be one of the ones to do so, as he goes into 5th with a 13.2, moving Ollie down into 7th.
You know, every season, Jacob, we talk about where is the gap? Where do we get, you know, the top drivers and then that jump down to everyone else? And at the moment, I'm starting to think that drop comes after the likes of Hamo and Peso. I think, you know, we've got the top 4, top of 5, the 2 McLarens, the 2 Red Bulls, Jeffrey Ritchie. There may be a slight drop to Hamo and Peso, and then I think it drops to the likes of Ollie P, Labrax, Sandro, Jane Trepkov, and Lars Algera.
Yeah, indeed. That does seem to be how it's shaping out, at least in qualifying here, as Riptide invalidates in the first sector of this lap. Starting to get a bit hairy now in terms of time remaining in this qualifying section. Christian Sendel decides that he's done enough, and who can blame him? With that 12.8, he's clearly going to be through into Q3, so he has simply retired in the pit lane. He'll be starting on that soft set of tyres. No one really trying out the mediums apart from Jane Trepkov thus far, but even Jane is now back out there on a set of softs instead, and he is actually pushing on his lap right now. And Riptide will have had to back out of his, of course. And there we go, Jane Trepkov. He's a couple of tenths up on his previous best lap time. That might not be enough, to be honest. A 14.5 is well off the back of the likes of Labrax, who himself isn't too close to Sandro.
And I think this is looking to be a 13.4, 13.5, bit of a lockup heading down into the hairpin of a turn 13. That's going to cost the Racing Point driver even more time. But this is going to be kind of close to the likes of Sandro and Ollie P in that cutoff zone. 13.573, just ahead of Sandro by a few hundreds. The Williams is on a hot lap, but here's a Vallu for his final lap in qualifying a 2. He can't invalidate, he can't make any mistakes. He has to make it through into Q3, otherwise this would be the second time in a row that the Red Bull driver and the Season 2 reigning champion fails to make it into Q3.
Yeah, and he really needs this weekend to go smoothly to ensure that he can continue to challenge as a serious contender for the championship, because right now it's starting to fall away from him. He desperately needs. This is the biggest test. It's this section of the lap that is the hardest to avoid invalidations. Oh, and he plays with fire there on the exit of 11. He just about keeps that left front on the road. He lifted to do so. And that was 100% the correct decision. That was a 57.4, I think, through there, or something along those
54.2.
54.2, sorry. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. 57.4 would have been very slow. 54.2 is a very fast one, in fact, for Vallu. Let's see if he can keep it all together in this final sector. Tiny little twitch on the throttle, but that shouldn't matter too much. And indeed, it is a 112.907, splitting Jeffrey Ritchie and Christian Sendel. Vallu easily into Q3, and boy, did he need that.
Riptide is out of the session. He's in the pits. He couldn't get around in time for another lap. Let's see what KX Ricardo can pull through. We've got 3 drivers who are yet to set laps, and Ricardo's so close to the track limit, but he pushes the limits to the absolute limit as he makes his way down into Sector 3. Is this going to be enough for the Racing Point to make it into Q3?
Oh, that's not nice into 13, though. He's going to have lost a couple of tenths from that one, at least very deep on the brakes into that one. Into that final corner, holds down the throttle nicely up towards the line. It is only 11th for the Hong Konger, and he will be descending out of Q3. I don't imagine, or out of Q2, I should say. I don't imagine he'll be able to set another lap on that
Can we jump on board with Lars Algera, actually? He's coming into the final sector now to complete his lap.
Connor already missed it.
Oh, Connor missed it.
Yeah, Connor just missed the checkered flag there. I thought that was going to be the glitch with the timing, but no, Connor already just completely missed it. Here's Lars Algera up towards the line, and he's up into 8th, the 13.324. That's more like it from the Canadian.
Sandro's invalidated.
Sandro Van Sand has his track lit up in red, and that only means one thing. He has invalidated, so he's out of Q2 as well. It's up to Labrax now. He's the last driver to try and improve, and it is Yane Tripkov on the bubble.
Yeah, Yane Tripkov on the bubble. This means that Lars Algera is confirmed to make it into Q3. Labrax and Ollie P, the only 2 that can improve, and can Labrax knock Yane Tripkov out of the top at 10? Ollie is safe. Labrax.
Ooh, he does it. Yane Tripkov down into 11th, and Ollie P squeaks through into the 3rd section of qualifying. So that's both Alpha Tauris making it through. Bit of a boon for them, both Alfa Romeos as well. So nice qualifying from both of those teams.
And Ollie P, I think he's going to complete this lap. There's been a lot of lockups, a lot of under rotations in this final sector. This isn't the cleanest of soft tires, and Ollie P improves, but by a very minor amount.
Yeah, but that might be a better set of tires that he's just been able to improve on. And it was a very narrow improvement. So hopefully for Ollie, that will pay off, and that is a better set of tires that he was able to do that on. As now we're just waiting for KX Ricardo in the pits to retire. Indeed, he does. And he will be making his way, bowing out here in Q2, along with those other drivers. Riptide and Connor Eddy, neither of them were able to get a lap together in the end. So they both fell out without a lap time on the board. KX Ricardo, 9 tenths down on the ultimate best time, just didn't have the pace of the rest of the drivers. And Sandro Van Sand and Yane Tripkov were both so close to making it into the 3rd part of qualifying, along with Ollie P, but it was Ollie that won out in the battle between the 3 of them.
And that cutoff point at a 1:13.4. And Jacob, it's your favorite time of the day. It's your favorite time of the week. It's prediction time here at Formula X Racing. Who do you think is going to be our top 3, and what do you think is going to be the pole lap?
I think it is going to be... I think the top 3 is going to be in order. We are going to see Vexit first, Christian Sendel second, Vallu third, and the pole lap, I'm going to say, or would it be ridiculous to say we'll get a 12.6? We've seen a couple of 12.8s thus far. We might well see the gloves come off in this final part of qualifying. I'm going to say a high 12.6.
I agree with you, but only on one thing. Can you guess what that bit is?
Vexit for pole.
No, it's the 1:12.6. I think 1:12.6 is a very likely pole time. I'm going to go with Jan Fehler to snatch pole. And I believe that would be his first pole of the season as well. It would. I think Vexit will take P2 and Christian Sendel P3.
Wow, okay. So no faith in Vallu. And you're at Jan Fehler, who has showed nothing better than a 13.0 thus far in qualifying. You reckon he's going to find 4 tenths here in the final
Sandbagging.
Sandbagging. Well, if you say so, it might well be sandbagging for Jan Fehler. We will see.
I'm going to get in some good points with our producer. Our producer reckoned Vexit, Vallu, and did you say Jan Fehler third? Jan Fehler third.
Oh, no faith in Christian Sendel from production. Oh, and production also says a 12.5, so he has more faith in the overall pace of these drivers than we do, so we'll see. Feel free to let us know in chat who you think the top 3 is going to be and what you reckon that poll time will be as well. We always like to see your opinions on it. As right now, we have 5 drivers out here on an outlap and 5 still sitting in the pit lane.
Blue Wolves actually, I think, agreed with your prediction, Jacob. He's gone Vexit, Christian Sendel, and Jan Failer. Oh, wait, did you say Vallu?
I had Vallu third, actually.
Okay, yeah. Vallu third. Well, we'll see what does come through. I wonder if we're going to be seeing any slipstreams from drivers. But either way, here comes a Vexit for his first lap in Q3. The man who took a pole last time out in Brazil.
Vexit, definitely one of the contenders for pole position. Blue Wolf agrees with me that he might well be the one at the very top. Let's see whether he is going to be or not. There into turn 1, that all looks okay. Turn 2, fine. Turn 3, fine as well. Perfect lines through the very first part of the lap there from Vexit, but we'd expect nothing less from one of our very top contenders. See the braking zone now into turn 4, slightly after that 100-meter board, but getting it nicely onto that apex, swinging the car back to the right then for turn 5, now turn 6. You want to hit the second of those 2 apexes, and he does so without too much difficulty. Now, down towards turn 7. Don't cut too much on the inside, but don't run too wide on the outside either. Maybe a little bit late on the turn in there. Had to get out of the throttle a little bit more than he would have liked, but the second part of the S section is solid. And now in towards another heavy braking zone for turn 12. Don't want to run too wide, and he does. And that is the invalidation. Maybe he was just put off a little bit by that McLaren up ahead getting out of his way.
He'll be able to come into the pits and go back out for 2 more runs with sets of soft tyres. So not too much of an issue for Vexit. A good way to get his eye in. Jeffrey Ritchie, though, he's going to be getting his eye in with a clean lap as well. 13.8 for Ollie P. That's not great. Jeffrey Ritchie, 13.1. That is a good time for the Alfa Romeo.
That's a good time. It's not quite as fast as what the Dutchman managed in the second part of qualifying. So he'll be thinking there's still some improvement to be had. Hamo going in there with a 13.5. That's not necessarily the best that either him or his teammate Ollie P have to offer. I wonder if they're on used soft tyres at this point. That might explain why they're a little bit further away than where they might like to be. Christian Sendel, 27.7 in that first sector. That's a respectable first sector indeed. From the McLaren. Vexit up ahead, might be getting a little bit of dirty air here, as he is still pushing on his lap as well through the second sector of this lap. And he'll give a bit of a slipstream to Christian at certain points, but right here it will not be suiting him. In fact, Vexit's had to back out of that one as he cuts the corner. And now he's just going to have to get out of the way of the McLaren. Christian Sendel, 54.376. This is on track to at least be in the low 13s, probably into the 12s as well. 13, 14, now into 15, and then finally turn 16 we go. And now it's just getting that throttle down, moving the car to the right-hand side and waiting for the line to come. And it's a 12.971 from Christian Sendel. Again, not the fastest we've seen from him either.
Yeah, Jan Failer invalidated his lap time. Vallu invalidating his as well. This is what we were talking about. So easy to invalidate here at Mexico. And Christian Sendel is the only of, that top 4 elite driver lineup who has been able to set a clean lap. But Vallu's going to go around for number 2. Remember, his teammate Vexit went for a second lap, but invalidated through the S's. And maybe for Vallu, the most important thing is that he just sets in a lap time.
Yeah, at least wants that delta to work with. Jan Failer, I think, is just coming up into... Is he coming into the second sector there? No, I think he just came across the line, so he might have invalidated his lap time as well. And in fact, yes, he has invalidated. There we go. He's coming up to the line now. He has invalidated, so trouble for him. But Vallu in that first sector, it shows purple. I didn't quite catch the sector time, so I can't verify with that one. But apparently it's 27.6, and that is about a 10th up on what Christian Sendel was able to do in that first sector of the lap. Oh, big four-wheel drift, though, through turn 7. That would have lost him a significant chunk of time through there. But he does manage to keep all 4 wheels on the road.
Yeah, 27.6, a great opening sector. 54.3 at the end of sector 2. And this is on track to be a 12.8, 12.9. It all comes down to whether he can nail this final sector.
And he can't. He's invalidated it. So back into the pit straight away here, Vallu. Surely that's going to have to be the decision from the Finn. No, he stays out. And it's a 12.941. So it would have been enough for provisional pole position, but that invalidation through turn 14 and 15 means that he will have to go yet again on a fresh set of soft tires. Jan Fehler has invalidated again as well. These guys, they're really struggling right now.
Jan Fehler invalidating another lap time. You know what? Maybe it's time for another prediction, and maybe we should do the prediction of, will all of Vallu, Vex, and Jan Fehler actually set in quick and uninvalidated lap times, I should say. Why am I saying uninvalidated? Validated lap times.
Yes, valid lap times, one might say. But yes, Jan Fehler, he's not a driver that I'm used to seeing invalidating a lot of the time either. He's generally pretty clean, pretty under control with most of his driving style. So it is surprising to see him having trouble with invalidations in this final part of qualifying. But if there's any way you're going to have trouble with that, it is here in Mexico, where it is so easy to pick up those warnings, those track extensions. But here's Vexit, who's come back for a fresh set of tires, and he is going again and immediately through turn 3. Can't even get to the end of the first sector before he invalidates yet again.
As a better man than me once said, an invalidation. And
well, it must have been an
like
absolute genius who said that, but yeah, it's
undoubtedly
the wrong Red Bull on this occasion, unfortunately. But Vexit, yeah, they are struggling. The three of them, they're all struggling.
And it's weird that, the three drivers that I thought, or, two of the three drivers I thought would be at the top is two of the three for pretty much every single prediction that came through in chat and that we said here in the production room has been unable to set a lap. And now they're going to have maybe their chance to go for one final lap. Ollie P on an improvement by 0.4 of a second. This will be a 13-4 big understeer, big lockup into the hairpin, and that will cost him a 10th or so, but let's see if he can improve on his 13th.
Yeah, we didn't get to see the majority of the lap, but here comes the AlphaTauri, and it's only a 13.638, so there is some improvement. Moves him ahead of Labrax, but not really up to challenge anywhere in the front couple of rows. Hamo still clear of his teammate right now, and it's only Oli P out on circuit, but there is one of the Alfa Romeos leaving the pits as well. So I think that's going to be Jeffrey Ritchie getting back out there. And honestly, at the moment, he's looking good for that slot on the front row, as long as Vallu, Vex, and Jan Fehler keep having their track extension woes.
You know what? I think I've worked out the perfect poll to put out on the Twitch chat. Do drivers think that the pole time in Q3 will be faster than what we have seen previously in qualifying, which was a 1:12.8 something? I can't remember exactly what it was, to be honest.
Well, will we see at least a 12.7, I guess, would be the general.
Yeah.
The best way of doing that then. I mean, at the moment, I'm not sure it's looking that likely. No. You got to think that at the very end of qualifying, the drivers will be throwing absolutely everything at it. But in such a scenario, that might be the time when they're most likely to invalidate. That might be the pressure that we're seeing getting to Vallu, Vexit, and Jan Fehler here, as they cannot string those laps together. And just quickly, Senator Droffler in chat there. Riptide qualified down in 15th because he wasn't able to set a lap time in the second part of qualifying due to invalidating too many laps. So that is where that Ferrari will be starting. But now, sister team, if you will, Alfa Romeo, is Jeffrey Ritchie starting his either penultimate or final attempt here in qualifying.
And let's just see how well he can nail that opening sequence of corners. Turn 1 to 3, braking at about 90 meters again. Don't want to cut too much of the corner, but you do want to cut through turns at 2 and 3. It's not clean. He ends up skittling over the curb just because he doesn't cut just enough. And Lars Algero giving a beautiful slipstream to his teammate on the run down into turn 4.
Yeah, not the longest straight, of course, but a long enough one to make that slipstream worthwhile. Jeffrey Ritchie getting it tight into the beginning of this second sector. Second apex of the double right-hander. Didn't quite hit it, but you don't necessarily have to. You can still get some very nice lap time by driving that line that Jeffrey just did. Now into the S section. All over those curves, but not by too much. Apart from then, when it was too much, and there's the invalidation. So that slipstream has all gone to waste as well for him. Now Vallu, he's out there on a flying lap, so is Peso. Peso's in the danger part of the track right now, but it looks like he's holding it all together. This is one of the toughest bits, but he's absolutely in the right place at the right time. Now, into the next braking zone for turn 12. Aggressive right-hand corner with an aggressive curve on the inside that Peso does well to avoid.
That could be pole. This could be pole for Peso.
Peso's lap time is really shaping up well. Vallu's is going to be looking pretty good behind as well. Peso coming into the final corner. Here comes Vallu, and he manages to avoid an invalidation. Now Peso up towards the line. Oh, it's a 13.013. Can't quite knock Christian Sendel off of that top spot. Did I just see a 54.1 from Vallu in the exit of Sector 2? I think this is going to be incredible here from Vallu if he manages to hold this all together into the final corner. Maybe a slight mistake there. And up towards the line, what's it going to be? It's a 12.634. Vallu goes to the very top, and he crushes that 12.8.
Absolutely smashes it, does Vallu. But what can Vexit pull out? 54.4, 3/10 of teammate. But that being said, it might be enough to lock out the front row for Red Bull, at the very least, provisionally.
Provisionally, maybe Vexit can go again on this same set of tires as well. He's got enough time, but the tires will be hot. He doesn't have a whole lot left in the ERS. The fuel might be low as well. But he goes up into
Hamo!
Hamo ahead of him there in the AlphaTauri, splitting the sister teammates in the form of the two Red Bulls. Here's Jan Fehler. Last gasp for him now. He has no chances left after this one, but he's avoided the worst part of the track in terms of those invalidations. Now, an early turn in there for turn 12, but it doesn't seem to have suited him too poorly. Doesn't quite make the apex of 13, running a bit wide on the exit. That's going to compromise him through 14, but I think that's going to be okay through that final corner. Now, power down. No hint of an issue on that steering wheel. But it's only 6th for Jan Fehler. He still can't break that 1:13.0. He's behind Peso. Christian Sendel now is the last one to challenge for these drivers, I believe. And he's into the final sector of his lap right now. It's a 54.1 from him as well.
This is going to be tight between Christian Sendel and Vallu. Is going to be neck and neck, but Christian Sendel validates. Deary me.
That is
Red Bull's weekend.
It is Red Bull's weekend, and it's not only Red Bulls, it's AlphaTauri's as well, with Hamo taking a spot on the front row. Unless Labrax can do something, maybe Vexit is on a flying lap still, I'm not entirely sure. Maybe we can just cut on board with that Red Bull and see. No, he's out of it. So this is it for qualifying. That is your poleman Vallu back in form here in Mexico, with Hamo of all people alongside.
I mean, technically, it's a Red Bull 1, 2, 3, really. 2 Red Bulls and an AlphaTauri. I know recently there have been a lot of drivers who have been competing in the Fantasy FXR League complaining about Vallu's poor performances. Well, he's giving you your points this week, or he's giving you your points today, and anyone who picked up Hamo, well, that's going to be some extra points going your way.
Yeah, big points for Hamo for sure. And no one having him as part of their provisional top 3 in chat. None of us thought that Hamo would be able to do it either. But he was able to. It's only a 12.920 to be fair. So part of it's Hamo with a great lap time. Getting into the 12s is incredibly fast. But we would have expected Vexit, Christian Sendel, Jan Fehler all to be able to get better lap times than what they did. Jeffrey Ritchie's going to be disappointed down there in 7th as well.
And honestly, the only one out of everyone there who had the pace to match was Christian Sendel. He was the one who was on a point to, at the very least, match it. He was on that 54.1 at the end of Sector 2, identical to Vallu, but the invalidation on the exit of turn 14, or through turn 14, is what cost him in the end. Either way, the McLarens have work to do for the race, starting in P4 and P6.
Actually, I can't remember. Did Christian Sendel complete that lap? Can we maybe check the race director to see what that lap time was that he would have done? If we go into the race director, we might have a little bit of time here just because we know what the top 10 order is. 12.8. So that wouldn't have been enough, but he might have already backed out a little bit in that final sector. He was over a 10th down on his previous best in that final sector. There you can see the all-green sector times for Vallu, stringing it all together when it mattered most and taking pole after what has been a very rocky start to this season for the Finn and our defending champion. But this is much more like it from him.
This is huge, not just for the race, but in terms of the championship as well. I mean, we knew this was going to be an entertaining race, you know, from the moment we knew Mexico was on the calendar, but it is shaping up that way. The question is, how does it go in the race? Who ends up invalidating their laps? Who ends up picking up the time penalties? Because time penalties almost certainly will play an impact on those top 4, what seems to be the top 6, top 7 drivers.
Yeah, indeed. And that is going to make a very big difference. If you can keep your nose clean and just pootle around in 7th or 8th, you might find yourself with a podium come the end of the day. And I'm sure there are going to be some drivers who'll be focusing on that as much as they're focusing on their pace, if not more, because they know that they can get many a reward, many a point out of that strategy.
Yeah, and we might be seeing some drivers, falling back earlier on, but it just means that they aren't taking the same risks as someone further up the order. And I mean, we'll only know how it plays out once we get to the end, and then we have this beautiful thing called hindsight to say, yes, well, that was an obvious thing, and we should have seen it from the get-go, but we're on track, and we are pretty much ready to get underway as the drivers begin their formation lap.
And now we'll be able to maybe take a look at what tyres everyone outside of the top 10 has opted to start on as well. And it's softs for several of them, mediums for the rest. But Jarne Tripkov, Ricardo, Connor Eddy, and Cameron Cooper, so that is both of the Racing Points and both of the Mercedes opting for soft tyres here. Whereas everyone else starting outside the top 10 thinks the mediums are the way to go.
I would also like to say, this is Ollie P's first time starting inside the top 10. Both the times previously he started in P13, so just gonna say, blindfold challenge helping Ollie P out here.
Yeah, evidently so. It really has. It's like taking the training weights off, It's really brought him up here into that top 10 ahead of the likes of Labrax and Lars Algera, who have definitely, in terms of raw pace, seem to have the edge on Ollie P thus far this season. But it's a great weekend thus far, a great qualifying at least for that AlphaTauri team. Ollie punching above his weight up there in 8th, and Hamo certainly punching above his up in 2nd. Although he has been in there or thereabouts. We saw in the pre-season race as well, the qualifying, the evaluation race in Silverstone, he was right up there amongst several other drivers, sort of a 10th away or something from the likes of Jan Fehler. But here in Mexico, he's out-qualified him by several positions. Jan starting down in 6th. We saw him struggle in traffic in Australia. Let's see whether he can make this start work from 6th here today, or whether he'll be mired behind all those drivers once again.
And we've also got a prediction out in chat. Will we see at least one driver to receive a time penalty by lap 3?
I reckon we will. I'm going to put down a few points there on the yes for that one, but let's see.
Are we including 5-second time penalties? If we're not, I would go with a resounding no. By lap 3?
Time penalties.
Okay, well, either way, Jacob, we're on the grid. We're ready to begin the 3rd round of the season.
Yeah, Marankello's lined up there in 20th, and it's Vallu up in 1st, with Hamo alongside as the lights go out. And hold it. We are underway here in Mexico for round 3 of Premier X, and it looks like a decent start for Hamo, who's already got the leap pretty clearly off of Vallu there. Now Vexit's in charge as he looks to try and take a slipstream from the AlphaTauri in 1st. Christian Sendel battling for position as well. Zola disconnected from the session. That could cause issues, and the two Red Bulls come together there as Peso's looking to get interested as well, but it's Hamo clearly leading out at the front. What a start to the race for the AlphaTauri. Christian Sendel trying to make progress at the expense of his championship rival Vexit. Peso backing out of that particular battle because it could get hairy soon. But Vexit holds on to that position for now. Jan Fehler thinking about a move, but actually he's having to defend from Jeffrey Ritchie, who's trying to make up from a relatively poor qualifying. Both of these guys will be clean to make progress up through the field. Inside for the double right-hander for the Alfa Romeo, but I don't think he'll be able to out-drag, and he'll struggle to go around the outside of turn 7 here. So that's going to be Jan Fehler holding on to that one. Zola back in the session. They're still side by side. Jeffrey Ritchie. Wow, take a bow for that one, my son. That is Jarne Tripkov getting forced off the road by Jan Fehler as well, as their battle will continue down into turn 12 here. Jarne Tripkov going up the inside. There's going to be contact. They're still pushing wide. They're 2x2 through there and into the hairpin. It's so hard to go side by side through this particular part. Oh. And Jan Fehler's done it, and that's Jarne Tripkov round. And it's not just him, it's Connor Eddy as well. They've made contact, and two of them spinning out on the opening lap.
They try to go side by side through not only turn 13, but turn 14 as well. It was always going to end in absolute tears. Jarne Tripkov, Zola, both the spinning. Connor Eddy, Marankello, KX, Ricardo, and Ollie P as well. They've all had to come into the pits.
So much damage here on the opening lap of the race. So many drivers having to head into the pits, but that's great news for the likes of Maverick, Cameron Cooper. They are further up. Sandro has not had a great start, sitting down there in 13th. Ollie P, disaster for him after a really positive qualifying to have to pit at the end of that first lap. But at least they'll have all of each other to keep themselves company at the very back of the field, keep themselves entertained, give them something to fight for. at the very back. And of course, they can still hope for a safety car. Interesting to see that Marankello went on to a set of soft tires there. So that will be a very interesting one. Of course, he did start on the medium, so can't go on to another set if he wants to one-stop. But of course, he can't take a set of softs to the end here either. There's Zay all over the rear end of Sandro Van Sant, but Sandro holding on to 13th ahead of the Aussie for now. And the Aussie almost loses it, does lose it into the wall, but manages to keep all the wheels on his wagon.
That was his real disconnecting for Zay. That's the only thing that would explain him running wide like that. Something else I want to bring up is Hamo has pulled a second to Vallu. Vallu will not be getting DRS from the Alpha Tauri. What on earth is this pace on Hamo? He is absolutely flying.
Yeah, and this is something we saw from Vallu in Australia as well. Remember, at that race, his qualifying was decent. He qualified third, and then in the race, he just couldn't string it together. He was falling back and back and back. And maybe we're seeing a similar issue in terms of race pace for Vallu here. Hamo out there at the very front. I am sure that Hamo is using all of his ERS to try and build this gap at the very front. He's not even using all of his ERS. Hamo is just solidly in first. Valu's having to use his ERS to try and keep up. Vex is trying to get past Vallu as well, but he's not exactly climbing all over the rear wing of his teammate either. So Hamo is just looking outright solid for this one in the lead right now.
But Vallu's been able to close back within a second. He's used up that ERS to close the gap down, and now he will be getting DRS from Hamo. This is not the Season 2 of Vallu. This is not the masterpiece of Vallu we're seeing. This is the Vallu racing without racing line, trying to get accustomed to it. That's why we are still seeing Vallu fast in qualifying, but struggling in the races. He doesn't have the consistency that he had previously due to having the racing line available to him, and it is showing in Season 3 of FXR.
He'll get his first dose of DRS here as he just about remains within 1 second of Hamo. But looking at Hamo gapping him on the straight, it only comes down now that the DRS really starts to kick in. Hamo might be running very low downforce relative to Vallu here. Low drag certainly in that AlphaTauri.
Cameron Cooper's looking for a move on Maverick. I think they're side by side on the run down into turn 1. And Cameron Cooper nice and cleanly sweeps past the Renault.
Yeah, soft tires getting back past the mediums of Maverick there. Labrax and Lars Algera, they're battling further up. There's been a big gap forming between those two and the rest of the soft tire runners further up. I think a lot of that gap was facilitated by the incident between Connor Eddy and Jane Tripkov, and I think that brought some of those guys further away from that leading pack than they would like. And the top 7 all still very much within DRS range of one another, though, as Marankello and KX Ricardo are also battling down there over 15th and 16th. Marankello on the soft tires after that pit stop should be able to make that move stick down there.
It was actually a three-way battle. Ollie P was running in P15, and he's lost both positions on the straight, both of the guys behind having DRS. But honestly, my heart goes out to everyone from P15 and down because their races have been absolutely wrecked. Zola as well being involved in that incident, catching Jane Tripkov. Unfortunately, he's 10 seconds behind Sandro, who's 2.5 seconds off what is effectively the DRS train.
Yeah, Vallu now closing back into Hamo at the very front as they get towards the end of that main straight. But Hamo still staying ahead for the time being. Vallu definitely getting closer. Hamo not having it all his own way at this point. Cameron Cooper's got past Riptide to make it all soft tire runners in the top 10. The medium tire runners falling back further down. But yeah, Hamo still leading the way from Vallu and Vexit. Christian Sendel still looking interested in 4th place, so staying with them with Jeffrey Ritchie just behind. Jan Thaler set the fastest lap of the race last time around, so he is lively, even though he's stuck down in 7th for the time being.
And honestly, just as a message to all of our viewers in the chat, if you're watching this race and, you're not here to support a particular driver, you're not a friend or family member of one of the drivers, the equivalent of Hamo leading, as Maverick picks up the first time penalty of the race, the equivalent of Hamo leading is equivalent to Giancarlo Fisichella leading back in Spa, when was it, 2010, or the likes of Perez, 2009, or the likes of Sergio Perez leading a race, Hulkenberg leading that wet Brazilian 2011 or 2012 Grand Prix. If you're a neutral, you're a Hamo fan right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Hamo he's been impressive, but he hasn't been this impressive thus far this season. And this is definitely a turn up for the books for sure. Marankello picking up a 3-second time penalty to join Maverick on that particular regard. And now here comes Vallu, though, looking to try and get past Hamo. A bit of a lag moment between the two of them there, but there, sending it up the inside, goes the Finn. but he's not alongside enough, and that will be Hamo holding on, defending well there. Calm defense from the AlphaTauri. No contact between the two of them, and Hamo stays ahead for the time being.
And this is a 7-car train being led by Hamo and being rounded up by Jan Fehler in P7. Your championship leader at the back of the train, and this is really going to flip the championship tables right on its head, because Vexit will be the one leading from Christian Sendel and Jan Fehler, and Vallu will be closing into all of these guys. Where it'll put Hamo, I don't know. Hamo's best result so far, a P7 in both Australia and Brazil.
Lars Algera is starting to struggle down there in 10th. He's lost out to Labrax a couple of laps ago. Now he's lost out to Cameron Cooper. And himself and Cameron Cooper, they've fallen well away from Labrax as well. So he really does not have pace right now in that Alfa Romeo. But here comes Vallu. He's got the DRS wide open again. And he's going to send it up the inside of turn 1 here. There's only so much that Hamo can do to try and fight this one back. But he is going to fight it back. He'll take the inside for turn 2 as well. But he can't shut the door. And as a result, that is going to be Vallu up into the lead of the race for the time being. He got pushed wide, did Hamo, in that battle. And now Vexit's going to look to try and take advantage. There's still no DRS. It's a double detection point there. And Hamo, without that DRS, cannot fight against either Red Bull. Really well done from the senior team there to get both of their drivers up into first and second. Perfectly executed from Vallu and Vexit. And Vexit will be very keen to have got past Hamo as well to make sure that he can keep Vallu in sight at the front.
And that, in my opinion, is the experience difference between Hamo and the likes of Vallu and Vexit. If that was a Vexit who was battling with Vallu, he would have let Vallu through, he would have just slotted him behind and then tried to get the run on him down into turn 4 on the exit of 3 in the second DRS straight. But Hamo tried to fight Vallu, he compromised his own run, and that's what allowed Vexit to get back ahead. And you can tell, Hamo is not directly in this championship fight. He's just trying to get the best result that he possibly can, and he's going to fight tooth and nail for every single position that comes his way.
Right now, he's struggling to even stay within DRS range of the rest of the drivers. Jan Fehler, he pulls the trigger. He's the first one into the pits. We saw that in Australia. It didn't work out for him then. Maybe it'll work out better today. They're all DRSing each other down that straight, but no one passes anyone. It's still Vallu leading from Vexit. Hamo getting closer. Now Peso, actually, and Jeffrey Ritchie are going side by side. That's Jeffrey having a go at the Williams driver, but Peso stays ahead. The check in that Williams will remain in 5th for the time being, but that has caused a bit of a gap to form between themselves and Christian Sendel. They're going to want to close that one straight back down as soon as they possibly can, and they need to make sure they are still working together to keep Jan Fehler behind, because he has initiated the undercut, and he's got plenty of clean air down there in 12th as well.
And the undercut is huge here at Mexico. We've seen it time and time again. You pull off the undercut, you'll be gaining pretty much a second a lap. And when we do look over to Jan Fehler, he's put on a fresh set of mediums. We'll have to see whether he's going soft, medium, mediums to the end, or soft, medium, soft. Either way, he's going to be jumping the likes of Peso, Jeffrey Ritchie, Christian Sendel. And don't forget, Vallu and Vexit are teammates. So one of them has to pit this lap. The other one will have to pit 1 lap later. So he's going to be getting a 2-lap undercut. And actually, it's the McLaren undercut entirely, because Vallu's in the pits, and so is Christian Sendel. Jeffrey Ritchie will follow through as well.
Yeah, Vallu responding then to the very back of that train, going in to try and get that undercut. And of course, it was the right call, because Christian Sendel in a much more threatening position, also into the pit lane there. So Vexit, Hamo, Peso, Cameron Cooper, they're all staying out on their soft tyres, but pretty much everyone else is done with theirs. That's Labrax, Jeffrey Ritchie joining Christian Sendel and Vallu. But Jan Fehler's got Jeffrey Ritchie and Christian Sendel. I'm not sure what happened to Christian in the pit lane. He must have been held or had a wing change or something, but there's Jan Fehler trying to battle with Vallu and taking the position away. That is the de facto race lead he's got with a 1-lap undercut. That just shows you the amount of power that undercut has here in Mexico.
And this could have been such a huge undercut for Vallu as well. If Jan Fehler was not here, all of a sudden, Vallu is 2 seconds ahead of Jeffrey Ritchie. He's outside of the DRS zone. He's outside of the slipstream effect range. He could have then run away with this race. But Jan Fehler with the undercut, he's not making the same mistakes that he did in Australia for round 1 of the championship. He's pulling the trigger early. He's in the de facto race lead. When Vexit comes out of the pits, he might actually find himself behind Jeffrey Ritchie, maybe even behind Christian Sendel as well.
Christian Sendel must have had a wing change, though. Look how far behind Jeffrey Ritchie is. 4.5 seconds. So I doubt he's going to be able to undercut any of these drivers. It's damage limitation from him at this stage. And I don't think there are enough drivers in the pits to hold him for that long either. Maybe if Labrax came around at just the wrong time, perhaps he get held in the pits. But now he has Labrax in his rear mirror, and that's who he has to worry about. Jan Fehler will take what is de facto the race lead, even though there are still 3 drivers ahead of him on circuit at the moment. There's Vexit coming out alongside his teammate and Jan Fehler. He's going to have to slot in there in third. He hasn't lost too much time to those guys, and here goes Vallu up the inside of Jan Fehler. He was behind him for a lap. He doesn't want to be behind him any longer. And there's that experience that you mentioned. Jan Fehler not fighting that one aggressively, allowing Vallu through, knowing he can slipstream him back, DRS him back, and try and take the position away in a couple of laps' time. But he's under pressure from Vexit as well, who's looking to go around the outside of turn 4, and he looks to have judged it beautifully there. What a move once again from Vexit, as Jan Fehler is shuffled out by both Red Bulls. Once again, the 1-2 punch from the Red Bull team.
Great stuff from Red Bull. Last time, it was the pair of them finding a way through on Hamo. This time, it's the pair of them finding a way through on Jan Fehler. Vallu and Vexit both with fresher tires compared to Jan Fehler, and it was so critical for Jan Fehler to stay ahead with those older tires to make this strategy work. But as it turns out, it's just not working that well with the slightly older medium tires. Vexit getting his mediums turned on instantly to snap past the German, and now let's see if the Red Bulls can just drive away from Jan Fehler.
They have looked like the class of the field really thus far. Q2, it was a bit shaky. The McLarens looked a bit better then, but they had the run of Q1, they had the run of Q3, and having the run of the race for the time being as well. Hamo has been shuffled down there behind Jeffrey Ritchie and Jan Fehler as a result of their undercuts on him. Stays ahead of Peso and Christian Sendel because of Christian Sendel's pit stop going long, of course, probably due to minor front wing damage and therefore a front wing change. But Hamo, after a very solid start to the race, finds himself down in what is effectively 5th and falling away from Jeffrey Ritchie for the time being as well. He'll want to close down that gap as soon as he can, get it back into that 1 second margin. He's just about holding it there for the time being, but it's going to be close.
And speaking of 1 second margins, Christian Sendel, 2.8 seconds behind Peso. You noted that extra longer pit stop that he made. It was a good spot, front wing change coming through for the McLaren driver, but he's going to be hunting down Peso, and then he's going to be looking to work his way up through the field. And unlike in Australia, a circuit where it's hard to overtake, where we saw Jan Fehler stuck in traffic, for Christian Sendel, he should be able to make his way up the order as Hamo picks up the first time penalty of our leading sequence of drivers.
Yeah, we saw the cut there from the helicopter view as well. It was a pretty obvious one through turn 12, just cutting too much on the inside. His teammate Ollie picks up his 2nd time penalty of the race down there in 16th. And he's on a bit of a recovery drive, is Ollie, after that front wing change after the opening lap of the race. Jeffrey Ritchie just about sticking with Jan Fehler, not exactly troubling the rear end of that McLaren, but not falling too far away either, which is exactly the situation he'll be happy with for the time being. He's looking for his 3rd podium of the season, and he'll be hoping that he can make it a 2nd or even a 1st. He's managed 2 third places thus far. Sandro now has Vallu and Vexit all over. He's driving a bit of a train. He's going to be stuck with those guys behind him for a little while in the middle sector here because there's no easy overtaking opportunities. Sandro, interestingly, hasn't really had a whole lot of pace in this race. He's fallen away from the likes of Maverick and Riptide, who, based on his qualifying pace, you'd expect him to be up ahead of those guys.
Very weird start to the race for Sandro. He is on the medium tires, so compared to the top 10 guys, he was expected to be slower, but compared to the likes of Riptide and Maverick, who also started on mediums, he should be able to at least match them on pace. But Sandro, he's a real cork in the bottle, and this is not what the Red Bulls have needed, because it means that Jan Fehler has been able to close up to them again. But Vexit might be having a slight smile on his face because he might be able to get the double overtake as they start lap of 14 of the race.
This is like a safety car restart right here. They're both going to get past Sandro into turn 1. You can imagine that Sandro getting well out of the way. I think he's getting out of the throttle even. And there's Jan Fehler with a triple slipstream trying to get past them as well. Will he get too interested? He might try and challenge Vexit. But Vallu still leading the way, so the positions don't change after all that. But it was very close to disaster for some into that first corner. But that was actually great news. Sandro holding up these guys was excellent news for Christian Sendel, because anytime these guys get held up by one of the cars ahead in that middle section of the lap, Christian Sendel will be able to set a much faster Sector 2 time. And Sandro has now fallen down to the back of the particular train, allowing his teammate Peso through as well. Christian Sendel only 1.5 seconds off the back of this train now. He's getting back in contention.
Christian Sendel gained about 2 seconds from that. And, well, guess what, Jacob? If you thought that was fun, ding, 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 round 2, because Vallu and Vexit are pretty much within 1 second of Maverick now.
Yeah, this might actually be timed really well for them. They might be able to get past him into turn 1 here, and therefore they're not going to lose anywhere near enough time. In fact, Maverick gets completely out of the way. He's actually dawdling on the apex, and there's contact, and he's sent round. And that was a weird one indeed. I'm not sure if he was losing the car or what, but he put himself on the apex of the corner, made contact. Now he's just headed into the pits in the Renault. And that is them clear of him at least, so he's not going to be quite such a disrupting force anymore. Yann.Thaler and Jeffrey Ritchie, they're going side by side over 3rd place. Jeffrey wants that podium once again, and he wants to get himself at least provisionally there right now. And he gets past Yann.Thaler. They had a great battle on the opening lap. They have a great battle here once again in the first sector. Yann.Thaler will have DRS. He'll try and get him back, but of course Jeffrey has DRS of his own, so he can hold on. Now, further behind, that's Peso and Hamo going for the battle, as Christian Sendel further back gets past Sandro. That is Peso getting around the outside of Hamo. Hamo can fight back on the inside of turn 6, but that is going to be Peso making the move stick, and into 6th he goes.
Great stuff from Peso, great stuff from Jeffrey Ritchie. Peso having a fantastic redemption race after the nightmare that was the Brazilian Grand Prix for him. Now, Jeffrey Ritchie is over a second behind Vexit, so this might mean that Yann.Thaler can bite back on the next lap, on the run into turn 1 next time round. But for now, the two Red Bulls, they need to work together to ensure that there is no way for Yann.Thaler or Jeffrey Ritchie to get back within a second, and Yann.Thaler loses the back end, and that might hurt his initial opportunity to fight back against the Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, it's going to make it difficult. He might have to wait for turn 4 here, but you can see he is closing in on the car ahead. Jeffrey Ritchie, it'll have to be a dive bomb, and no, Jeffrey's going to hold on to the position for now. Vexit and Vallu stay in formation as well. Jeffrey has a bit of a moment there on the entry to turn 2. That's going to make him much easier meet in towards turn 4, but Christian Sendel picks up a 3-second time penalty just as he gets onto the rear end of this train, so it went from bad to good and now to bad again. With that time penalty, Yann.Thaler was able to get past Jeffrey Ritchie further up, once again making that move into turn 4 of this circuit, and now he will desperately be trying to get back within range of Vallu and Vexit. 1.9 seconds to the Red Bulls. They might just start running away with this one.
I think they can. They just need to work together now, and they have this in the bag as that is an incident. Is it a safety car?
It is
indeed. Oh no, that is terrible for the two Red Bulls. Now the question is, do they pit for hard tires? I think everyone has to pit, and this is going to hurt Vexit so much.
Yeah, this is going to be a bit of a nightmare. Riptide might find himself in a positive situation, though. Ollie speeding under safety car, that's never going to help his race after such a promising qualifying. He's picked up 2 time penalties, and now that extra drive-through penalty as well. Riptide into the pits, Yann.Thaler into the pits, Jeffrey Ritchie, they're making the decision to go into the pit lane. Labrax, Sandro, all of them into the pit lane. But Vallu, Vexit, Peso, Hamo, they all stay out. Christian Sendel stays out as well. So split strategy as a result of this pit stop. Drivers taking different decisions, going in different directions. After Conoretti lost it on the exit of turn 3 and went, I assume, into the wall, retiring from that session on his hard tires.
Honestly, I feel so much for the Red Bulls. I feel so much for any Vallu or Vexit fans out there, because they had this race. This was theirs for the taking. Yane picks up a time penalty, but it's under safety car, so he should be able to get that one removed. I think Vallu and Vexit have missed a trick. Yann.Thaler, what tires has he put on? He's put on mediums. Riptide has put on softs. And Riptide is in de facto race lead because, remember, he stayed out on those mediums for as long as possible. Sandro has got his pit stop off, and he's putting on soft tires. So these guys think that the softs can last 20 laps. Either that, or they're going to do one more pit stop to the end. And the thing that I want to bring up is it's likely that they're going to do one more pit stop, put on another set of soft tires. But right now, they're on fresh softs. The guys ahead are on old medium tires. So in terms of strategy, Riptide and Sandro are in the best position of everyone around them. But personally, in terms of overall strategy, I think Labrax and Jeffrey Ritchie, this is their race to lose now.
On the hard tyres then for Labrax and Jeffrey Ritchie. Labrax has quietly found himself up into a very solid position, finding himself ahead of Jeffrey Ritchie. Jeffrey's actually lost out in that pit lane. I think he must have been held in that Alfa Romeo, some sort of issue, because he's lost out to both Labrax and Sandro Van Sant. And Sandro was well behind these guys after letting them all through. He was yet to pit on his set of medium tyres, so this safety car has suited him very well as well. Maverick's out there on a fresh set of softs as well, so he's pretty okay. Slightly more used than Sandro, but not too bad. Lars Algera, Zola KX Ricardo, Oli P all on fresh tires. And you got Marinkello, 3-lap-old mediums. He wanted to stay out on those. Zay and Yanni Tripkov will be able to get back up towards the rear end of this snake before the safety car comes back in. So all those guys who had their race ruined on the opening lap, they've got a bit more of a chance to fight back now as well, especially with half of the field maybe being on a slightly compromised strategy now.
Yeah, and for the likes of Zay, he wants to take as long as possible to get to the back of this safety car, because that means that there are going to be less laps, and less laps for him to be losing time on the hard tires. So just to recap for everyone, for those people tuning in, lap 17 of 36, we're on the safety car, and there are 4 strategies currently in place. Your first set of strategies are the likes of Vallu down to Christian Sendel. They pitted from softs onto mediums well before the safety car. After the safety car comes in, they're going to keep on pushing. They're going to pit for a set of soft tires, go to the end. Then you've got the likes of Riptide, Sandro, and KX Ricardo, who are on soft tires. They're going to be pushing, putting on another set of soft tires and going to the end. You've got Jan Fehler, who's on fresh medium tires. His strategy is fairly similar to those on fresh softs. He's going to push, he's going to pit and put on another set of softs, or try to squeeze those mediums to the end, as it looks like safety car's coming into the pits right now.
Safety car coming into the pits will be racing again on lap 18 of the Mexican Grand Prix. And it will be Vallu leading them down towards turn 1. He's led much of this race, but Vexit has always been there with him. There has not been a point when the two Red Bulls haven't been together on track, barring the lap difference between their pit stops. Vallu holds them for a long time, and now guns it on the straight. Peso, Hamo, they're going to be interested as well. Christian Sendel looks to have got a really nice restart all over the rear end of the Alpha Tauri. Slight gap back to Cameron Cooper, who's going to be under pressure from Riptide on those fresh, soft tyres in the Scarlet Red Ferrari. But out in the lead, it's still Vallu leading from Vexit. Now Hammer and Peso. Hammer and Tongs between the two of them, more like. There's a car off. No, never mind. That's Cameron Cooper, who scoots back on track. Riptide, he's had an issue. He's run wide on the exit of turn 3. And as a result, he's falling well down. He was in such a good position after the safety car, but he loses out there. Now Hammer and Peso still fighting in towards turn 4. This is Christmas come early for the Red Bulls, as they can drive away from this pair of white cars battling with one another. But it is Peso who holds onto the position just about in the end, shutting the door on the exit of turn 6. Then it's Christian Sendel, Jan Fehler, who's been able to dispatch Cameron Cooper and Riptide to get back up into 6th. He's already over the rear end of his teammate and with much fresher medium tyres.
This is the kind of performance that makes their champions of the Red Bulls. We thought their race had been thrown due to the safety car, but despite everything, they have pulled that 1 second once again.
And now look at the Renaults battling. That's Maverick and Labrax almost making contact there. Maverick on soft tyres definitely has the more pace right now. But that's up the inside. It's Riptide, who also is on soft tyres. 2 cars mugging Labrax in as many corners there. And the Dutchman falling down into 12th. But
take a look at Sandro. He's having a go at Cameron Cooper on those soft tyres as well. This is the battle for P8.
Yeah, there goes Sandro looking to try and get up the inside in towards turn 1 on Cameron Cooper. Has much more grip coming out of those red-walled soft tyres. And as a result, this should be a relatively easy move, but he doesn't have the straight line speed to get alongside the Mercedes. And as a result, Cameron Cooper holding on. Labrax and Lars Algera are battling. Labrax cannot stop losing positions right now, as he loses out to the Alfa Romeo as well. And now KX Ricardo is there. He's on soft tyres as well. It's just getting worse and worse for Labrax right now. This has been a disaster of a lap for him. But actually, he fights back and tries to continue the battle with Lars Algera. But Lars holds on to it. Now KX Ricardo, can he send it up the inside of turn 6? That's always going to be dangerous. But thankfully, Labrax gives him the room. Very respectful driving indeed from the Renault, who could have easily caused a collision there. And now that's Zola getting past Labrax. This is a disaster for him. Lars Algera picked up a 3-second time penalty in the chaos. Labrax is the one who loses out worst.
This race restart for Labrax reminds me of the race start that Jan Fehler had. Remember, he dropped down from, what was it, P3 or something like that, all the way down to about P7 at the end of the opening lap. It was a torrid lap. But meanwhile, up at the front, Vallu and Vexit have pulled out 1.5 seconds to Peso in P3, as here comes Jan Fehler on Hamo.
Jan Fehler is the big threat right now to those Red Bulls. He has made a great restart here in the McLaren. He's already been allowed past his teammate Christian Sendel as well, who's fading on those older medium tyres. And now he gets past Hamo with ease into turn 1. These guys know there's not much point battling with Jan Fehler. As a result, they don't battle, which means Jan loses less time as Oli P heads into the pit lane and retires after what has not been a great race following an excellent qualifying for the AlphaTauri. Contact there between Riptide and Maverick as the Ferrari went into the side of the Renault there, but he just about held on to it. And actually holds on to the position ahead of Maverick as well there. Riptide getting past the Renault. That could have been a really big crash for a moment there, but Riptide held on nice.
Yeah, good stuff from both of them to keep it out of the wall. I think we remember back to last season where it was two Renaults coming together on that exact same straight, and one of them ending up losing a win. In fact, both of them might have ended up retiring from the race as a result, as Labrax's day goes from bad to worse with another time penalty going his way. Up at the front, Vexit now 2 seconds ahead of Peso, and he's staying within the 1 second of Vallu fairly comfortably. So it's a Red Bull 1-2, but who will take P3 is absolutely anyone's guess right now. And of course, don't forget, Jeffrey Ritchie's going to the end of the race, and he's got DRS from Cameron Cooper in P7, as Sandro under pressure from Riptide.
Yeah, Jeffrey wants to get past Cameron Cooper pretty quickly because there's some very hot shoes behind him on those soft tyres. Riptide almost making contact with Cameron Cooper, has to back out of it, and that leaves Sandro enough space to try and keep alongside. What a view of their battle this is from the rear wing of the Alfa Romeo, but it looks like Riptide has been able to clear Sandro, and up into 9th he goes. So after a poor restart from him, an issue out of turn 3, he has started to recover it. Back up into 9th on that fresh set of tyres. KX Ricardo's having a go at Maverick further behind, around the outside of 6. We've seen so many drivers side by side through 6. Well off the road is Ricardo, but he's still trying to keep his foot in it there. But he cannot manage to get enough space alongside Maverick into turn 7, and Maverick holds on to 11th for the time being. Jan Fehler, he's up behind Peso. Now, Vallu and Vexit, they're going to be desperately hoping that Peso can hold Jan Fehler behind him for a couple of laps at least, because that gives them the respite they need. Because Jan Fehler right now is absolutely coming for them like a shark in the water.
And Vexit needs it more than anyone else because he picked up a 3-second time penalty while we were viewing that insane battle through the first sequence of corners. So Vexit needs to absolute push. If Vallu is a gentleman, maybe at the end, he will allow Vexit ahead just so that he can, hold on to that position or lose less positions in the process. But don't forget, you still have to remember, you have the likes of Jeffrey Ritchie on those hard tyres, and he's going to be going to the end. And Jan Fehler's on the fresher medium tyres of everyone right now. Christian Sendel dropping down the order is really weird because we've seen a situation where people have pitted. The soft tyres have done terribly on the race restart. And it's been, and Christian Sendel's dropped down the order as Jan Fehler's making these new mediums work absolute wonders.
Yeah, but now Jan Fehler's starting to stagnate behind Peso a little bit here. He's been behind him for a lap and a half now already. Christian Sendel and Hamo, they've both been able to catch up to the rear of the battle between the two of them. And as a result, there's a lot of channel points on the line in this battle between Peso and Jan Fehler as well, because at the moment, there's a lot of people claiming that Jan Fehler will be able to get past Peso by the end of lap 22, but on current evidence, unless Peso absolutely makes a mess of the final corner, it's going to be very unlucky. Blue Wolf coming through with 10 channel points might take home an absolute haul here if Jan Fehler doesn't get past, and indeed he doesn't. So there we go for the channel points battle, but now Jan Fehler will be closer to Peso this time around. He should be able to think about making the move in towards turn 1. He will have the inside there. We see the Williams on the left-hand side, and Jan gets past him, but not soon enough for all you guys in chat. But nevertheless, he has 2.5 seconds between himself and Vallu and Vexit further up, and he can look to try and eat into that gap right now. There's been an incident further behind, and it's Sandro! Sandro down to the very bottom. He was in a battle with KX Ricardo, Maverick, Riptide, and there's been contact once again here, and look, he's struggling to get the car going again with those hot rear tyres. He just needs to calm it down there in the cockpit, but down into 18th, his race is all but over.
We're just looking at the prediction as well, 38k going to Blue Wolf. It was very entertaining to see Fister, who is a real-life friend of Peso, begging him to spin in caps lock in the chat. But sadly for Fister, there has been no Peso spinner. Christian Sendel is closing in onto Hamo and maybe might be able to find a way through shortly. But the AlphaTauri driver will be having DRS from Peso. We're on lap 23. Expecting about 3 laps at a time, the Red Bulls to come into the pits for a set of soft tyres to go to the end of the race.
Yeah. Ooh, Christian Sendel pulling the trigger. He's coming in right now. He's done with this set of medium tyres. Will it be another set of mediums? It surely is going to be at this stage of the race. Let's see, as the tyres will now come on. It's soft. He's going for softs to the end of this one. He's going to pull off a mega undercut here, but it's going to be a real question of how rough those tyres are going to be when they get to the end of this race. Vallu and Vexit, they're still in formation, but Jan Fehler is getting closer and closer. Watch the gap between the McLaren in third and the two Red Bulls out in the lead. It was 2.5 seconds, about a lap ago. It is 1.5 seconds right now. Jan Fehler is bringing Peso and Hamo and Jeffrey Ritchie with him as well. Jeffrey Ritchie may well be a threat getting towards the end of this one.
And I'm just trying to think, why have we seen Christian Sendel putting on soft tires? Okay, so he knows that everyone else, when they pit, they're going to put on soft tires. So he wants to be on the same set of tires, the same compound of tires as everyone else. Hamo picks up a time penalty. He's second of the race. And Christian Sendel, he wanted to get the undercut off. He was being held up in that chain of cars. And as I mentioned, if he put on the medium tires, he would have been at a significant disadvantage. So he clearly thinks he can make those soft tires last 13 laps. The first stint, we saw drivers pitting off the softs after 9-10 laps. So he's going to have to stretch those soft tires 3 laps further than they did in the opening stint, albeit that opening stint was on soft tires that had to do a race start. So they pick up some wear from the actual wheel spin off a launch, as well as that Q2 lap time that they would have set.
Yeah, and the extended fuel load as well, as Peso reacts to Christian Sendel's pitting by coming into the pits himself. But he does get undercut then by the German in the McLaren, but not by as much of a margin as you might have expected there. Peso actually still within 1 second of Christian Sendel. So he's had a decent in-lap, while Christian Sendel's had a really rough out-lap on those soft tires.
Remember, Peso was running in P4. He was behind Jan Fehler, so at the rate that things are going, Christian Sendel, he's going to come out ahead of Jan Fehler at the absolute least. So I think he's done enough, and he's still got another lap. He's still got another 2 laps relative to one of the Red Bulls, because both Red Bulls cannot pit on the same lap.
I mean, is Jan Fehler pitting again, though? That's the question. Do these mediums make it to the end of the race for Jan Fehler? It'll be a mammoth stint on them, but it might well be the only option at this stage, with Jeffrey Ritchie certainly going to the end on his hards, you'd have to imagine. Jan Fehler is just going to gift the race to Jeffrey Ritchie unless he stays out there on medium tyres. Here's Vallu into the pits. He does not want to get undercut by those guys on the soft tyres. He knows he has to pit again. His mediums would not make it to the end of this race. Several other drivers also coming into the pits. That's Maverick, it's Ricardo, it's Cameron Cooper and Marinkello all into the pit lane for a fresh set of soft tyres. And Hamo now very close behind Jeffrey Ritchie, but that's Jeffrey Ritchie actually getting past Hamo, I believe, and up into third there. They're starting to lose time to Jan Fehler as well. Where does Vallu come out relative to Christian Sendel? It's behind him, but ahead of Peso. So Christian Sendel pulls off the undercut on the race leader. And now Peso's looking to try and get past him, giving him trouble there into turn 3, but Vallu holds on nicely.
And we've just had a prediction coming through in chat. Will Red Bull finish first and second? Little tip to anyone who wants to win some channel points. Say no.
Yeah, that one's going to be a no from me. I think Jeffrey Ritchie's got this one almost sewn up, to be honest, at this stage, unless Jan Fehler can make it to the end of the race. Hamo's close behind Jeffrey Ritchie. He has to pit. Riptide has to pit. Then you've got Lars Algera, who is many seconds behind Jeffrey Ritchie at this stage, at least 5.5. And he's got time penalties as well. Jeffrey Ritchie has no time penalties. And we know how solid the Dutchman's pace is in that Alfa Romeo. I think Jeffrey Ritchie is the most likely victor of this race coming towards the end of it. Vexit into the pits, Hamo into the pits. They're getting rid of their mediums as well. It's a front wing change for Vexit. We saw him sniffing the rear end of Vallu's car throughout this race. And as a result, some part of that front wing has been burned off, and down the order he will go as a result of that stop. He's actually going to come up behind Hamo due to changing that front wing. Yone Tripkov into the pits with Zola. Everyone getting onto a fresh set of soft tyres. And we'll see just how much pace they'll have, whether they can get up to the likes of Zay, Labrak, Lars Algera. There's big gaps out there at the front.
So Vallu... Wait, what's happened to Vallu's time penalty? It's gone. It's a magic trick, Jacob.
I don't think Vallu ever had a time penalty.
Was it Vexit?
Vexit has a time penalty at this stage of the race. I think Vallu is clean for the time being. And yeah, there you go. Vexit on 3 seconds, Vallu on 0. Oh, and there's Ferrari. A spun Ferrari. That's Zay, the Aussie in the Ferrari, who is stuck out there on hard tyres. They're not especially old, but making a mistake on the exit of turn 6. They're able to get going again, and luckily no one's been balked by that. No incident between him and the rest of the drivers. No contact, so no one has any harm done to them besides Zay himself. He's still running up in 9th for the time being. That would be a very solid result if he can bring it home inside that sort of top 12, top 13.
I think Riptide finishes this race, or pardon me, Lars Algera comes second in this race. I think this is an Alfa Romeo 1-2 here in Mexico. I think those tires from Jan-Fela are going to be dead in the last few laps if he tries to take those mediums all the way. And if he pits, well, the Alfa Romeos will just have to hold on to that 1-2 on circuit.
I think Christian Sendel and Vallu catch Lars Algera before the end of this race. Vallu in particular has no penalties.
Maybe.
Lars Algera does. They're going to have a lot of pace over and above him with those fresh, soft tires compared to the rather worn, hard tires that Lars and Labrax are on. But the gap between Christian Sendel and Labrax is not going down quite as quick as I might have expected, but it's still half a tenth at the first sector of this lap. And the second sector is where it's going to really make the biggest difference. As Zay down there in 10th, Kurt Ricardo in 11th, Riptide coming out down in 12th. And Yanni Tripkov still circulating down there in 16th, all over the rear end of Maranello. So there's still battles going on towards the very back. And out at the front, it is Jan-Fela who's still extending his gap to Jeffrey Ritchie ever so slightly.
So Vexit had that front wing damage. He's down to P9. Hamo 5 seconds behind Pesso. Remember, the Alpha Tauri got undercut by 2 laps on Pesso. That's how much of an effect a 2-lap undercut can have. Nearly 6 seconds. Vexit will be wanting to catch up to Hamo first, finding a way through and then trying to hunt down Pesso. Personally, I don't think Vexit will be able to get any higher on circuit than the P8 that is in front of him. But let's see what the Red Bull driver and the Englishman can pull out as
it's wing damage again. It's wing damage again for Vexit. Something happened on his outlap there. You can see the missing end plate, and it goes just down the drain for Vexit here. I think pitting was the wrong call. You stay out 100%. You stay out on that with that.
Don't know how much damage.
Front wing. I mean, there was an end plate missing. It's going to lose you time, but it's not going to lose you a pit stop's worth of time in the last 7 laps of this race. So I think that's the wrong call from Vexit. They're down stone dead last, behind Sander, behind Zola, down there at the very bottom. Jeffrey Ritchie is getting closer to Jan-Fela now, but it's still 2.6 seconds with not so long left in this race to go. Maverick getting past Zay, who's struggling on his hard tires with fresh soft tire runners all around him. Cameron Cooper also looking to take advantage there. But here's Christian Sendel. Look how much the gap has come down between himself and Labrax. And Labrax himself has closed in on Lars Algera. So I think Lars is going to be losing out to at least Christian Sendel, Vallu, maybe even Peso before we get to the end of this one.
So I think Jan-Fela is going to take those mediums to the end. That's pretty much a given, considering that he hasn't pitted yet. So he's going to have to do, 20 laps on those mediums, albeit 2 laps were behind safety car. That is still a long, long way, and I think he's going to be entering puncture territory, and puncture territory on F1 2020 begins when any set of tires gets over 75% as Vallu picks up his first time penalty of the race.
That could be a podium for Peso then, given the way things are going right now. That would be a great return to glory for the Czech driver after a poor return last time out. There's Lars Algera and Labrax battling here. The hard tire runners don't really need to be battling one another right now with all the soft tire guys coming up behind them. They're going to want to try and hold them behind as best they possibly can. They don't want to give them any hints of blood, any hints of weakness. But look at how much time Christian Sendel is gaining on Labrax through this section of track. You can see just how much faster the orange McLaren is relative to the black and yellow Renault up ahead. Labrax does have DRS on Lars Algera. That's the saving grace right now for Labrax. But, contact maybe there, and that pushes Labrax wide. That's pretty much a bump pass from Christian Sendel, who take that position away. I think there must have been contact to send the Renault wide, unless he just outbraked himself. I couldn't quite tell if the front wing actually made contact with the rear end. But now that is Labrax losing out to all 3 of those soft tire runners, as Peso is able to take advantage along with Vallu. Christian Sendel, he'll be closing in on Lars Algera at the front of this train, trying to get past him before turn 1. And that could be important, because if Vallu can't get past, then Christian Sendel can try and build a gap to him and Peso behind. So now these guys need to get past Lars Algera as quick as possible. They cannot afford to spend the second sector of this lap behind that hard-tired Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, and Lars Algera pretty much is just going to allow them to pass him. He knows that he's not battling with them. He knows that he's only going to lose too much time, especially when Hamo and Riptide are 5 seconds behind and looking to close in. He has to focus on his own race. And Peso, thankfully for him, he's still within 3 seconds of Christian Sendel. And at the way things are currently looking, it will be the Czech driver to secure his first podium of the season.
Vexit just picked up a 5-second time penalty. I don't know if he's head back into the pits or what. No, just for exceeding track limits. So I'm not entirely sure what that's about there. I think he might have just straight-lined the chicane in the first sector. But he did just set the fastest lap of the race last time around. So I think that's what he's going for at this point. That's going to get him fewer points than just sticking there in sort of 9th, 10th, maybe losing out to 11th. And nevertheless, he would have gained a decent amount of points down there. But yeah, it's the call was to come into the pits, and we'll see whether he can recover any more positions on the likes of Zola and Marinkello, but picking up extra penalties certainly won't help him. Now Vallu has that DRS. Christian Sendel does not, but Christian Sendel has plenty of pace in the McLaren. Look how far ahead Jeffrey Ritchie is, with only 5 laps left to go in this race. I don't think these guys can catch the hard-tired Alfa Romeo up ahead of them. And Jan Fehler himself is still stabilizing that gap to Jeffrey Ritchie behind.
And I'm just looking at Jeffrey Ritchie because he's the 2.4 seconds behind Jan Fehler. And we're getting to the point where those mediums are going to start getting slower. Probably in about 2 laps time is when we'll really start to see Jeffrey Ritchie closing up. And that's going to be the point where Jeffrey Ritchie will notice that he is significantly quicker than Jan Fehler. And he'll then be really hunting him down. And in fact, it might have happened already. He's gained 0.3 of a second through the S's alone. And Jeffrey Ritchie, all he has to do is make sure he does not pick up a time penalty. As long as he doesn't pick up a time penalty, he has a huge shot of winning the race.
It's not that simple. He's down at the very bottom of his battery charge. I'd be very curious to see what Jan Fehler has right now, as Vallu also doesn't have terribly much to battle with. There you can see Jeffrey Ritchie's used almost all of his. Christian Sendel's used almost all of his as well, so that might be good news for Vallu, who has a little bit more left in the tank, but not by much. Jan Fehler, he's got a bit more than Jeffrey Ritchie, but to be fair, they're all using it as much as they possibly can at this stage of the race, and who can blame them? Just a very straight sprint to the end. But Jeffrey might well have used a lot of overtake on that last lap to gain those 0.3 on Jan Fehler.
Yeah, Vex is absolutely pushing. He's picking up time penalty after time penalty. I think he wants the fast lap so far. It's always been Sandro who's been able to pick up the fast lap, fitting onto fresh tyres. But for the first time this season, it looks like Sandro might not be getting fast lap. And don't forget, this right in front of you between Vallu and Christian Sendel is for position. I believe both of them are on 3 seconds worth of time penalties.
Yeah, both on 3 seconds, but Peso able to use up both of them as long as he keeps his nose clean towards the end of this race. Lars Algera with 9 seconds. He's going to lose out to at least Labrax and maybe Hamo, depending on how close the Alpha Tower he can get. In fact, he should be able to close in on both of those hard tire runners. He's on fresher softs. So that should be a formality for Hamo to get up to the rear end of those guys and get past them in what could have been an excellent race for Hamo. It's turning out to just be a pretty good one instead. But nevertheless, I don't think he'll complain too much. Had a great moment in the sun at the beginning of this one. But here's Vallu, close behind Christian Sendel now, as they make their way down towards turn 1 again. But once again, Vallu looks like he has more downforce on than many of the other cars. But here comes the drag effect being reduced by that DRS. And there it is, around the outside. He will go. Hardly enough space for Christian Sendel to battle back. He tries to do so, but the move is done, and Vallu is up into third, and he'll open the DRS once again for his second helping. Christian Sendel will not be able to do it. He actually waves him goodbye with the DRS briefly there on the exit of turn 3.
You know, likely though that Christian Sendel will be able to find a way back through on the Red Bull next time round, or just sits behind, saves up some ERS and looks to do it all on the last lap of the race. Sandro picks up a 5-second time penalty for exceeding track limits, so that must have been a big corner cut. Sandro just made his way through turn 3, so I'm guessing he really cut through the right-hander, but I'm still looking towards the top of the timing sheet. 2.1 seconds between Jan Fehler and Jeffrey Ritchie has not changed over the last lap. Jan Fehler, he has got these medium tyres to work and to last, although I hope I haven't just jinxed him. He's got 2 more laps to go, and the gap has just dipped under 2 seconds for the first time in over a lap.
Yes, and this would be a huge result for Jan Fehler. Christian Sendel down in 4th. He'll fall down to 5th as things stand, so he's not going to get a huge amount of points. Vallu, he's had a rough couple of starts, a couple of races at the start of the season, so he's not really in contention with Jan Fehler at this stage. And Vexit, who is another driver who's right up there with Jan Fehler, is currently down in 15th position with a whole host of penalties to his name as well. So Jan Fehler could be jumping out to a significant lead in the championship here, and Jeffrey Ritchie's honestly might be the next driver in the order, as he's currently looking at a 2nd place finish. He'd love to take the win though, and he is going to keep trying to close down Jan Fehler to the bitter end. But at the moment, the gap is still 1.7 seconds. It looks like Jan Fehler's done enough.
Jeffrey Ritchie needs to try to get that gap to under a second. If he can do it in time for the 2nd DRS straight, that should allow him to make a move. And next lap, the final lap right here, down into turn 12. He's got the gap to 1.5 seconds. That means he's gained half a second in just under a lap. it's going to be so tight. And don't forget, Jan Fehler's tires are getting worse and worse, significantly quicker and quicker. This time round, Jeffrey Ritchie taking nearly 8/10 out of Jan Fehler. This is going to go right down to the wire, Jacob.
But look at his ERS. He's down at 3%. He can't gun it down this main straight, and he needs to. He needs to be in DRS range as soon as possible. Jan Fehler's just got the overtake pinned down, even though he's got nothing left to deploy. They're just absolutely throwing everything at this right now. Jeffrey Ritchie, 1.3 seconds. You could see how much Jan Fehler struggled under traction out of the final corner, because Jeffrey gained 3/10 on him there and then. But he looks to have had a better run on the exit of turn 3. This is going to be a tough part with worn tyres now. This second sector of the lap. If Jeffrey Ritchie can get close enough on the exit of turn 11, he'll have DRS down towards 12. But that is going to be a really tall order. It's very hard to overtake right there. Let's keep on board with Jeffrey Ritchie. It's 1.1. He's getting closer and closer to Jan Fehler on this final lap of the race here in Mexico. Oh, he's just within it. Where's the DRS detection line? I think we just passed it. And he's going to have DRS on Jan Fehler, but he's not going to be close enough, I don't think. Into the final sector, he'll have to hope that Jan's tyres are completely dead at that stage. But I think Jan is canny enough to hold on to this race lead at the very end here. You can see the fireworks going off, the paint flying up into the air as Jeffrey Ritchie desperately tries to challenge, but I don't think he has enough. It's come too little and too late for the Dutchman as Jan Fehler takes his second win of the season for McLaren. Jeffrey Ritchie with a great drive to second, his third podium of the season. Vallu getting across the line in third, but Peso inherits the podium, his first of the season, ahead of Vallu and Christian Sendel down in fifth. Labrax comes home in sixth on 20-lap-old hard tyres. Hamo, after such a strong start to the race, finishes down in seventh. Lars Algera with a solid 8th place for him. Riptide will be happy with 9th. Same for KX Ricardo in 10th. Cameron Cooper improves on 2 12th places with an 11th here today. Maverick with no practice, managing 12th on his first reserve race of the season. Zola Vexit, who crashes across the line. He'll be very disappointed with how this race has gone. Jarne Tripkov coming home in 16th. He won't be happy either. And then it's Marancello and Sandro, who was a lap down. He's already finished, so it's just Marancello left to finish it off. He can pretend that that's Italian flags rather than Mexican ones in the stadium there as he heads up towards the line to claim 70.
What a race. What a race, Jacob. And I mean, I think everyone under that safety car who didn't instantly pit for hard tires is going to be kicking themselves. And I'm talking about the likes of Peso. I'm talking about the likes of Jay Hamo. They had a huge opportunity. Vallu and Vexit. Well, if Vexit had pitted for hard tires, that would have saved his race completely. And, well, an opportunity gone.
An opportunity gone, but Peso, nevertheless, did manage his first podium of the season, so I don't think he'll be too unhappy about it. But there we see Jan Fehler, or at least his in-game model there at the top step of the podium. Jeffrey Ritchie alongside. And, I mean, it's familiar podium sitters in those two, but it didn't look like this was Jan Fehler's race to win at all. He struggled in qualifying relative to the rest of our front runners. He had the consistency in the race. He made the right call on strategy, and that was critical. The medium tires were questionable compared to the hards, but he made them work. Jeffrey, one more lap and he would have had him. But Jan Fehler taking the win there. Jeffrey Ritchie in second, Peso third, Vallu fourth, Christian Sendel fifth, Labrax in sixth, Hamo seventh, Lars Algera, Riptide, and KX Ricardo rounding out the top 10, but points all the way down to 18th and last of the finishers in the form of Sandro, who once again finishes last, I think, for the third race in a row.
You know what is something rather beautiful? The 3 drivers who didn't pick up any time penalties finished first, second, and third. I think that kind of explains what you need to do well in a league race at Mexico.
Yeah, it's keep it clean. And when the safety car comes out, definitely make the right call on tyres, because tyres play such a big role here. But it was not a clean race from many, but it was a clean race from those few.
And with that said, we're going to be jumping into a break. And when we return, we'll be having our post-race reactions, as well as interviews with our top 3. Hopefully Jan Fehler, Jeffrey Ritchie, and Peso will all be able to join us. Stay tuned for more here at Formula X Racing. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the stream as we jump on in for our post-race interviews with Jan Fehler, Jeffrey Ritchie, and Peso. Starting off with our race winner, Jan, 2 from 2. Maybe you're starting to make a little bit of a habit from this, but it definitely didn't look like an easy win for yourself.
Oh no, it definitely wasn't. Coming from P6 after a pretty poor qualifying in my book. Yeah, that was intense, I can tell you.
And I've got to ask straight off the back, what was the tire wear like, and for how many laps were you sweating?
Oh, I've been sweating basically the entire final stint. I had kind of a race engineer on my Twitch chat that kept me updated with calculating what tire wear I would end the race if I keep going like that. And it was basically at the start of the stint, it was changing like every lap. You went like, oh no, okay, you're on target. Next lap, oh no, that's too much. It kept changing, and I thought, I had to save the tires basically the entire stint. There's no way around it, and try to maintain the gap to Jeffrey behind. Yeah, and in the final laps, it was 5 laps to go or something. My engineer said, there's no way around it. You're going to be in puncture territory no matter what. And so I think I was at 74% going into the final lap. So I knew, okay, this is it. But I had enough bad luck with punctures in the game already for final lap punctures and losing points. So I think that's just fair that I get into the finish there with 80% over the line.
Yeah, well, thankfully for you, no puncture to come through. I do want to ask kind of 2 questions in one. When the safety car did come out, were you surprised that nobody else in front of you pitted and that nobody else went for, the no stop to the end? And if you could go back, would you opt for the mediums again, or would you go for the hards potentially?
First of all, I would never go for the hards in Mexico because they're terribly slow. But I guess, that final stint today showed that maybe it would have been a wise choice, actually. But I don't know how well I would have made it through the traffic at the start. So I don't know. I think I would go to the mediums again. But yeah, I don't know. Was I surprised? I don't know. I felt like, okay, I've got to do something now because my tires were a lap older than the Red Bulls, or 1 or 2 respectively. And a free pit stop is a free pit stop. I thought it would roughly be enough to make it to the end. So just go for it. So it wasn't really a lot about thinking. It was just, all right, safety car. I think it came out at the final sector anyway. So I didn't have a lot of time to think. So it just went, yeah, okay, free pit stop. Let's go mediums. They will do it. It's fine. 20 laps. Let's go.
Well, they made it to the end. Jacob, I'll throw it to you if you have any questions for our race winner.
Yeah, so if we quickly, I think all the way back to qualifying, which you might not want to think about so much, it wasn't quite so good as the race for you, but we saw you then a lot of 13 zeros in qualifying. There was someone in chat who was adamant that they'd been recently practicing with you and that you were doing 12 fives in practice. A, can you corroborate that? And B, did something go wrong in qualifying? Was there some sort of issue, or was it just that's what you felt your pace was at for qualifying at least?
Oh, I did not feel that was my pace because dude was right. I mean, I was not doing consistent 0.5s, but I was doing 0.6, 0.7s, and even the lobbies today that I did with Christian, the few qualies in preparation for today, I did like 0.7s. And usually, what I do in practice is the same what I do in the actual session. And obviously, I'm not talking about the PBs, but I'm talking about the consistent lap times. I'm usually doing like one great lap and saying, okay, that's my PB, and all the other laps are like 1 or 2 tenths off. But then I consistently do that these kind of lap times, and also in the actual session, I never really struggle to not perform there. So it was surprising to see. I knew in Q3 when I was on my final run, it was not ideal, it was not good. And then the closer I got to the line, I was like, oh, geez, this is bad. And then it said 13-0. My goodness.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I mean, it was as it happened, didn't matter too much, but obviously, gave yourself a little bit more work to do in the race. And then, if we think about the championship implications of this one, so this is going to send you quite a long way clear at the top. Your teammate Christian Sendel, who was 2 points ahead of you, he finished down in 5th, so he won't claim anywhere near as many points as you. Vexit down in 15th, although I think he did get the fastest lap, so he gets an extra couple there. But regardless of that, you're going to be quite a way clear at the top of the standings. Is this looking like, I mean, do you think you can do it? Do you think you're getting championship this season?
Well, I said before the season that's the target. So, of course, I'll say that again. But Yeah, it's kind of you to remind me of the standings, but I don't really mind at this point. Every season, every sporting event basically that I take part in, no matter if it's Formula One, league racing, or if I go playing football in real life or whatever, I just don't care about the standings until maybe like 2 or 3 events to go. When you think, okay, I might not have to risk everything, but until then, I think there's no point.
Okay.
So I just race, trying to win every race. That's obviously the goal for every race you go in. Then so, yeah, there you go.
All right. Well, yeah, interesting strategy, and it's clearly working out well for you. So, congratulations on your second win of the season, and thank you very much for the interview.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Another driver who might be taking things at a race-by-race approach is Jeffrey Ritchie. And Ritchie, I mean, last week I remember asking you 2 P3s in a row. Do you consider yourself to be in this do you consider yourself to be making this top 4 battle for the championship a top 5 battle? And, well, if you're speaking with your actions out on track, I think that was the most resounding yes.
Yes, indeed. I think consistency is very important, and yeah, my quali wasn't great. On my last lap, I think it was 3.5 tenths up, but I both on it, so yeah, that wasn't optimal. But so I started P7. I tried to like stay in the train. It was going all right, and then at one moment I got wing damage. Then I decided to pit and not fix it. Um, and then later on into the race, there was a safety car, and I decided to fix it, but it was awkward because it did cost me 4 positions, but I managed to get past them on the hards. Or some people pitted in front of me actually because they weren't gonna make it because they stayed out for on their mediums. I don't know, they thought they could make it, but I knew it was not possible. And my engineer Neon, he told me that mediums were not gonna make it, but Jan did make it like 80%, which I'm not even mad about it because I came from P7, so it was pretty much best result possible from my position with the damage as well.
I mean, Jan was in the puncture range, so I mean, if you'd gone for the strategy, it might have been you who picked up a puncture. But at the end of the day, it worked out. I do want to ask you, because you were probably thinking about it in the last lap of the race, because I know drivers tend to do that. When you're just outside of that range, you start thinking about all of those little mistakes you made in your stint, where you might have lost time, where you might have been able to find time. If you go back, do you think that there is, a possibility that you could have been able to get into that DRS range of Jan earlier and be able to fight for the win in the final sector?
Yeah, there were like 2 laps where I stayed behind. I think it was Peso or Huso. I think Huso, or Peso. I'm not sure, but yeah, I thought he was going in the lap before, but he didn't, and I stayed behind him for an extra lap, thinking that he wasn't going in, or that he was going in. That lost me maybe half a second to a second at max. So I think if I went past him before, maybe I could have got into the DRS like half a lap or a lap earlier and possibly overtaken. But you never know. It was risky as well because I was on 2 warnings and I didn't really want to risk it. I kind of just want to keep it clean. As well, he did actually have penalties, but I know Jan didn't have penalties. So even if I got passed, but I got that warning and I got that penalty, it wouldn't have mattered. So
Well, either way, a P2 for you. You've had 2 P3s in a row, a P2 now. So my final question for me before I throw to Jacob is, does this mean that we're going to be seeing another P2 next week?
I think, we're moving up. So like 2 races P3, then P2. I think next race another P2, and then the race after that P1 maybe. If we're following the pattern.
Well, we can only hope. Jacob, any questions from you?
Well, yeah, just thinking about next race, we got Bahrain up next. How's that circuit for you? Is that somewhere where you reckon you can recreate that P2, or track maybe you don't like so much? Or
Bahrain is probably not my best track, but
Okay.
we have time to practice, so maybe it's possible. My race pace there is pretty all right.
Mhm. All right. Well, thank you very much for the interview, and congratulations again on your second place finish.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Now, to those people who may have been noticing me somewhat giggling over the past few minutes, it wasn't due to anything Ace was saying. It's because there's a few idiots in chat going by the name of Fister and Ollie P who have been absolutely hilarious. And Peso, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you happen to be friends with one of those idiots, Fister, who I just want to inform you as well, Peso, that he voted against you. He thought that Jan Failer would get past you by lap 22 when that didn't happen, and he lost a whole bunch of channel points. So first and foremost, is there anything you'd like to say to Fister?
Unacceptable. Just one word. No, I'm just joking. I mean, yeah, Fela is faster than me, and I just don't know what to say. Just, just unacceptable.
Mhm.
One serious question that I do want to bring up, which actually Fister also mentioned in the chat at the point, was the safety car decision. Now, Peso, we know that you've made some interesting calls behind safety car, but season 3 was supposed to be the season where we saw, the god tier Peso strategies. We saw the great strategy call in Australia. So why didn't you, Pep?
To be honest, I was just scared of the hearts, and that's it. I just didn't want to go on hearts. I just wanted that fresh softs that feel so satisfying. And as Jan Feller said, those hearts are really really slow around here. So I picked the softs, and I think it was a good call for me because I wouldn't catch the Feller and Ace in the end, I think.
Well, P3, a solid result, your first time on the podium, and a good way to bounce back after the disaster that was Brazil. Can we hope to see the informed Peso again next week in Bahrain?
Well, I've never raced around Bahrain on this game, so we will see. I will have to practice.
He's going to
So
win now.
no.
Maybe so.
Jacob, any questions from you for Peso?
Yeah, so just thinking about it, I think 32 points for your third place finish here today, unless I'm very much mistaken. That doubles your points in the standings, bringing you up to 64. That's going to put you around sort of 5th or 6th in the standings at the moment. Do you have any particular targets for the standings come the end of this season, and targets in terms of how many podiums, maybe a race win, that sort of thing as well?
Well, in season 2, I said my goal is top 5, but now when I see the grid, I was like, no, I can't do this. So my goal now is to be like the top of the midfield, like top 6 or something. And before the season started, I wanted to get one podium, which I got now. So yeah, one goal completed.
Indeed, yeah, already completed only 3 races into the season. So congratulations on that one, and hopefully there'll be more to come before the end.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, fantastic to hear from all of our top 3. Congrats again to Jan Failer on securing the race win. But that is all that we have time for round 3 of Formula X Racing. We leave you with the news that people who were disappointed in having Vallu on their Fantasy Premier X team are now disappointed that they had Vexit on their Fantasy Premier X team. Red Bull just not picking up any points for them. Rip to everyone who had any Red Bull drivers today. And congrats to anyone who picked up a Pesa, because I think he brought in some serious dough for them. From myself, from Jacob, and from the very cute lion on the microphone arm. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube to see all of our content, as well as the race highlights and our next victim for the blindfold challenge. But we will be back next week, next Friday, for round 4 of the championship at Bahrain. Until then, stay fast and good night.